Okay, we are all set.
Thank you. Good
No
evening,
problem.
everyone. My name is Julianne Hirsch, Chair of the Select Board. I would like to call the Select Board meeting for January 26th, 2026 to order at 6:31 p.m. This meeting is being conducted remotely in accordance with the provisions of the open meeting law. It will be streamed live and recorded. Because we are remote, all votes taken this evening will be by roll call. Before we begin, I will confirm the presence of the select board members participating remotely. As I call your name, please state your name and confirm that you can hear us and that we can hear you. Mike Tejan,
Yes, I'm here and I can hear you.
Laura,
I hear you and I'm here.
Jonathan,
Present and heard.
Jacob,
Hi, Jacob Jones here. I'm hearing loud and clear.
and I can hear everyone and I think you can hear me. So before we move on to the agenda, I feel like I need to explain something. At our January 12th meeting, we had a discussion regarding a select board complaint related to information provided about the new fire station located at 61 to 65 Main Street. The discussion was supposed to continue tonight, and that was approved by a vote. However, one of the town personnel involved requested a continuance, and I decided to allow it. And I hope that the board understands my decision and can support that. So that discussion will be continued to a further meeting. And so now we will go to the agenda and start with public comment. And I think we have someone here. Bob Light, did you
Yes.
want, you already indicated that you had a comment. Okay, hi.
Yes,
You
thank
only
you.
have to state your name and your address.
Yes, my name is Bob Light, 48 Emerson Road. All you know, about 250 years ago this month, Colonel Knox and his noble train of artillery passed through the town, came from Ticonderoga on its way to Dorchester Heights, and the cannon convinced the British to evacuate Boston in June of 1776. So in honor of that, there's going to be an event in Worcester for the Worcester County Knox Trail towns. That would include Northborough, Shrewsbury, Leicester, Spencer, and Brookfield. And there'll be a ceremony at 2 o'clock at the AC Marriott. Before that, at 1 o'clock, roughly, there'll be a procession from Elm Park to the Worcester Common with the artillery pulled by oxen and horses on sleds, and then there'll be a ceremony in the AC Marriott at 2 o'clock. Northborough will be represented by Michael Tejan, who will receive the plaque that they are giving Northborough for being a Knox Trail town, and as well as some other mementos, such as a banner that they're making for Northborough. So we're still waiting for some more details. I will be posting those details as soon as I get them, but essentially it'll be a 2 o'clock event, probably roughly from 2 to 3. And we will have the Northborough Revolution 250 committee represented there with a table with some handouts and other mementos from the town. So thank you very much, and look forward to seeing whoever can make it.
Before you go, Bob, what was the date on that again?
January 31st, Saturday.
That's this Saturday.
This
Okay.
Saturday, right.
And is that the Marriott near City Hall?
Yeah, the downtown Marriott, right at the Common near City Hall. Yes.
Right,
It
right.
was moved from the American Antiquarian Society because I think they felt that there was going to be too big of a crowd, so they're holding it in the ballroom at the Marriott. The Lieutenant Governor is scheduled to attend, as well as the head of the American Antiquarian Society. Possibly Congressman McGovern will be there, and Mayor Petty of Worcester.
Mhm.
And we will be represented by Michael Tejan.
Great. Thank you so much. And thanks,
Okay,
Mike, for doing
welcome.
that. All right. Okay. And I see a hand up from Mitch Cohen.
Hi there, Mitch Cohen, 12 Whitney Street. Thank you very much. I was going to ask why the complaint continuance wasn't on the agenda. Julianne, I appreciate you explaining that well. I do hope the board takes that up again. My preference, and I know the preference of many people, is to resolve that complaint with a dismissal and find there's no reason to continue it, but that's up to the board to decide. While I'm here, I wanted to put in a quick word in favor of the B-Walt project, which I know is just after this item on the agenda. That is a really good project. In addition to all the values of just connecting a trail and everything else for for relatively low cost at this phase, it's a great opportunity for staff and particularly the board to get to know and work with their peers in the neighboring towns. When I was on the board, as part of that process, I got to know folks in a couple of the area towns. I went to a Westboro Select Board meeting where they were talking about this. It was it's really a lot of fun. So I hope the board supports that project and takes advantage of it. And that ends my comments. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, and there's a hand up from Lisa Mazzelli.
Oops, what happened to my unmute button? Can you hear me?
We sure can.
Ah, great. Lisa Maselli, 13 Maple Street. Thank you for letting me make a comment. I actually have something that I've been wondering about. You have coming up on the agenda tonight a wine and malt package store license renewals.
Mhm.
And there's an individual, well, a company on that list that's coming up for renewal. And the company has not been helpful in trying to clean the area up for the downtown revitalization. And I know there's been letters out starting in April to do something about it, and it's still not completed. Could we hold off on that license until that's done?
Diane, I'll have to defer to you.
Yep. Yeah, so this has already been done. The licenses were all renewed in December. What happened is the open meeting law requires that they be listed on the agenda, and we failed to do so. So we're just re-voting those renewals tonight.
Okay.
So
And
it's nothing, yeah, unfortunately, it's kind of already been done.
is that a yearly thing or a 3-year thing?
Yes.
What
Yeah,
happens?
in December. In December.
In
Yep.
December?
Yeah.
Okay.
But I mean,
I'd like-
certainly if you want to contact the administration office and, we can try to reach out to this individual.
I will do that. Thank you very
Hi.
much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Anything else?
Not for now.
And anyone else? If anybody sees a hand up, please let me know. Okay. All right, then we will move on to the B-Wall Trail feasibility study. A request for us to supply a support letter. And I think Lori Connors is going to present that item. Is that correct?
Yes, thank you, everybody. It's nice to see you all and that everybody hopefully has been able to unshovel from this tremendous snow event that we've had. So hopefully you folks can see the map that I am trying to share, which shows the extent of the B-Wall Trail. If fully constructed, it will extend approximately 12 miles from Framingham to the city of Worcester. And there are opportunities for offshoots. One that is certainly important to the town of Northborough is the connection to the aqueduct. So just a little bit of background information. Don Byrne is a Westboro resident who has been going to a variety of boards and committees in the town of Northborough. He appeared before the select board last January at a meeting that I also attended. And at that time, he was encouraging the town of Northborough to apply for a Mass Trails grant to do a feasibility study. And at that time, the select board was very supportive of that project and instructed me that they would like me to pursue a Mass Trails grant this year. So that is what I am interested in doing. The alignment that is proposed for the town of Northborough would extend from approximately the Northborough-Westborough border and would go through Northborough around the Mass DOT maintenance property down through their driveway across Route 20 along an alignment that is owned by a Northborough property owner and onto approximately a 6-acre parcel that is owned by the town of Shrewsbury to approximately Nursery Drive. Another possible connection is Walnut Street. So I have been in conversations with the property owners. They are all aware of this project. I am interested in applying to the Mass Trails grant. The deadline is February 2nd, so that is next Monday. The full extent of this trail that is shown on the screen right now is approximately 1.3 miles. So it's not a very long extent. It's the shortest extent. And what I ideally would like to do is bring it from the town of Westborough to the town of Shrewsbury and then turn it over to the town of Shrewsbury to extend it further. I have been in communication with the planning directors from both communities, and they are also supportive. So I'd be happy to answer any questions at this time.
Okay, if you could, if we could go back to the full screen where I can see the board. Are there any questions or comments from board members? Jacob.
Hi, Madam Chair. I've seen this on the Open Space Committee, and as I said there, I'll say here, I support this. I think we should sign on to the letter of support that's being proposed for this. There's some difficulties that are probably beyond the scope of this presentation on some of the nuances of where some of the parts go, but my understanding is part of the project here will be to iron out some of those difficulties. There's some topography, where to go, and anyway, there's work to be done to iron out all the, what's going to be the best. But I do think that good work's been done here, and I would encourage my colleagues on the board to support it as well.
Just to point out, the purpose of the feasibility study is to really pin down the alignment. So as Jacob had suggested, there are some challenges. And what I anticipate that the feasibility study will do will be to look at 2, possibly 3 different alignment scenarios to cost out the various scenarios and then ultimately decide which one makes the most sense from a feasibility standpoint, from a cost perspective. And of course, it's vital that we get the approval of the various property owners.
That was going to be my question. So we had a discussion with the property owners, the private property owners?
Yes. Yes, I have spoken with all of the relevant property owners. When we advance beyond the feasibility study, they will actually be required to sign a form stating that they are going to allow the trail to be on their property, but we're not there yet. We're at a very introductory phase, so we don't exactly know where the alignment is going to go. So it's premature to get those sign-offs at this point.
Okay, and if we get the grant, we have to match it with $10,000?
Yeah, so there is a 20% match requirement. So when I was speaking, so I am anticipating a cost estimate from a uh, engineering firm that has done a number of different trail projects in the past. And their preliminary estimate was about 65 to $70,000. So we are required to provide a 20% match, which would be $14,000. So what I would like to do is to offer up um, part of my contractual budget allowance of $10,000. So that's already incorporated into my budget for this year, as well as my services and the services of the conservation agent, as well as various other volunteers, like, for example, Brian Belfer, who is the chair of the Trails Committee, has offered to participate in this project. And there may be other volunteers as well who are willing to donate their services. So that is how I'm planning to make up the match requirement.
Okay. Mike?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Lori, for presenting. One question I have is, Lori, if I don't know if you could share again, or there was the image of the full Walt Trail from Framingham all the way through, and it looked like there was like a little spur that shot off into Northborough that wasn't on the closer in image. Yeah, like if you see where the Shrewsbury line is, there's that where Shrewsbury and Northborough line is. There's like a little spur that goes north, further the Shrewsbury Northborough line, like the town line.
Oh, you're talking about this?
Yeah. I didn't see that on like the closer in image. I was kind of wondering what that was.
I believe that spur goes up to Northborough Avalon.
Okay. And is that part of the scope, part of the project, or because or is that not because it's not in that second image? It's it's like a more of a thought or
Yeah. So what I would like to do, and I'm not exactly sure where it'll be, but ideally I would like to make the connection directly to the Avalon property. I think that the folks who live up there would certainly see it as beneficial to be able to access this trail, be able to travel along it to Walmart and then beyond to the commuter rail station. So
Mhm.
just to give you a little update, there is a portion of the B-Walt that is part of the Otis Street Route 9 reconstruction project. So they're interested in, the town of Westboro is interested in providing pedestrian and multi-use access to that intersection. And that is fully designed. They are proposing a 10-foot shared access trail that would go along Otis Street, ending at the entrance to the Walmart. So what I would like to do is pick up the feasibility study from where that ends and bring it all along to Nursery Drive / Walnut Street in Shrewsbury. So that connection to Otis Street is vital to ultimately bring users down to the commuter rail station.
Okay, gotcha. And then that spur wouldn't affect any of the cost sharing or any of the numbers that you had put out, right? Because it's on this map and not the other one.
So right now I'm only asking for a feasibility study.
Okay.
So after the feasibility study, we'll have to go into design. So chances are I will be asking for CPA funds to provide a match to another Mass Trails grant for next year. And then after the design, of course, we'll be going on to construction. So design is really when that piece will come into play.
Okay. And so that
But
Avalon, oh, sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry, certainly when I'm talking to contractors who are interested in doing the feasibility study, I will be discussing with them the need for links to certain vital pieces like Avalon.
Gotcha. Okay, yep, that was my follow-up. So thank you. And then one more quick one. So assuming the trails are completed and constructed, I don't know if other towns have completed and constructed sections of B-Walt. Um, where does upkeep, maintenance, snow plowing in the winter, salting, anything like that, where does that responsibility lie for a trail that crosses town borders? Is it just that would be on Northborough and on us to maintain our sections of the trail? Or I know that's maybe right, you're not even in design phase yet, but it's kind of where does that stuff normally lie and who pays for it?
Yeah, that's a key discussion point that will be addressed during the feasibility study phase. Westboro has been successful in installing pieces. Like, for example, they have a portion that was constructed along Chauncey Lake. And then they have this portion that is currently out to bid for construction at Otis Street. And it is my understanding that the town of Westboro is taking over the maintenance of those portions. Anything that is within the Mass DOT right of way, so Route 9 right of way, it may or may not be under the jurisdiction of Mass DOT. That's something that we really will have to pin down with them as we go through the feasibility study.
Okay. Thank you, Lori. I'm all set. Thanks.
Thank you. John Ray, I see your hand up.
Thank you. Two questions. One does this follow the aqueduct?
So there is a spur that is proposed to connect to the aqueduct. So currently, this section that I am talking about would not connect to the aqueduct. And the reason why is, of course, another project that we're working on is to do a multi-use trail across the aqueduct bridge. And we've been working with Mass DOT on that project. It's been moving extremely slowly. And we did discuss with the MWRA about doing a multi-use trail. I think that conversation happened about a year and a half ago. And they were not at that time supportive of any other surfacing. So right now it's just grass on the aqueduct trail. Um, they didn't want to allow any other surfacing, but certainly we can revisit that in the future. So what we're concentrating on now is the aqueduct bridge project so that we can deal with that gap in the network. Talking about the B-Wall Trail, which would roughly run parallel to Route 9, and the Aqueduct Trail is for tomorrow for a future discussion.
And that aqueduct, the portion you're referencing, is the old Northborough Bridge there. Is that the bridge?
Yeah, it's the bridge over the Assabet,
Yep.
the historic bridge.
What are the other conversations going on? I had heard, and I'm not as close to it, that there were discussions on using the aqueduct to accomplish some of the same things to connect towns and a way for people to go and walk or ride their bike or however. Is that a thing or is that not a thing?
Well, like I said, it is owned by the MWRA, and the MWRA is not currently supportive of any other surfacing than what currently exists, which is grass. So we could revisit that in a few years. But we were told as of a year and a half ago that they are not interested in that at this time.
And the Beat Wall Trail would be pavement, or what's the surfacing on it?
Pave. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. So the goal is to have it off-road wherever possible. So of course that would require easements from property owners along Route 9. And if we are unable to secure those easements, then we would have to go parallel to Route 9 within the Route 9 right-of-way.
Okay.
But that is not the first choice.
And when is the cash outlay for the feasibility study?
Approximately $65,000 to $70,000. 10,000 of that would be paid for with my budget. And then the balance would be services that I would provide, as well as the conservation agent.
So town resources provided plus call it $10,000 of additional cost.
Yeah, so it would average about $14,000.
Great. And what is the timing of when we would need to pay that?
So the grant application is due next Monday. And they anticipate turning around a decision around August. And then the work would have to be completed within that fiscal year. So by June 30th of 2027.
And have we contemplated using CPA funds for that? It sounds like it could qualify, and we're in the budgetary season now.
It's too late at this point to apply for CPA funds. I didn't want to be too burdensome on the CPA because I think that we have a really good chance of getting the feasibility study paid for with the Mass Trails grant. However, I do anticipate applying for CPA funds next year to pay for a portion of the design costs. Because once again, there's a 20% match. So I would be interested in applying for CPA money to cover that 20% match.
Why not apply for CPA money for the 14 grand and reduce the tax burden on taxpayers?
Why not apply for the CPA grant?
Yeah, for the feasibility study. I'm assuming it qualifies. And if it does, why not? We have a well-funded CPA fund that this would seem to be within their charter. Why not utilize those funds, apply for those funds, and then that would benefit taxpayers?
Well, I would have thought that you would have preferred me not to ask for the taxpayers through the CPA to pay for the feasibility study when there was a good chance that I'd be able to get grant money to pay for that.
Why are they mutually exclusive? Can you not get grant money and do the amount not covered by the grant, the $14,000 that we're talking about, and having that $14,000 paid for by CPA?
Well, I already have the money in my budget.
I hate that answer. So any money not spent is savings. So like that's the thinking that taxpayers are they're going nuts. I have in my budget. So I'd rather see not spent and a reduction of what goes into our next tax cycle or a savings than having a well-funded CPA where this qualifies for and use those dollars instead.
Well, the purpose of the $15,000 that's in my budget is to hire contractors to do services to support the planning department. So I saw this as an appropriate use of my budget because that's what it's for.
Yeah, and I guess the question I'm asking is this a CPA eligible cost where it could be appropriate use of CPA funding and have it not within your budget and just have it paid for out of CPA? Because that's we're in the budget cycle right now.
It makes for a stronger grant application if I have the money in hand, which I do. So, I could say in the grant application that I'm going to use CPA money, but I did not apply for CPA money on November 1st. And then I'd have to wait until the end of April to know whether I got that money. So kind of, the bird in the hand is more attractive to the grant funders than a maybe.
No, I don't want a maybe. I'm supportive. So I think what the preference would be is first use of funds, CPA. And if for CPA, for some reason, that has uncertainty around it, if it's a warrant, timing, all those things, we'll secure it with your budget. So fully supportive of the project, but looking to see how we could use this using CPA funds and reduce the amount of money out of the operating budget, saving Northborough taxpayers money.
Okay.
I think John makes a good point here, Lori, is so that $14,000 that we would be required to match, it only comes if you are granted the grant, correct?
Correct. If I do not get the grant, then that money goes back into the general fund.
Okay, but if you get the grant, hopefully you will get the grant. Can we talk to CPA at that time to see if they can cover the $14,000?
No, because the timing doesn't work out.
Well, I think it would behoove us to have a discussion with the CPC, that with that committee, because, their agendas are always, adjustable, right? So,
Well, on Thursday night, they're making their recommendations on the applications before them, and this is not an application before them. That application was due on November 1st. I did not submit that application. They did receive 3 projects, which they are considering. They had to advertise a public hearing. They started that public hearing on December 1st. And they are planning on voting their recommendations on Thursday night. So and then of course town meeting isn't until the end of April, but the grant application is due on Monday night. I mean on Monday at noon.
yeah, but at applying for the grant Monday by the deadline doesn't mean that you have to in the application say that absolutely this $14,000 is coming from your budget and services, correct? It just
I do have to identify the source of money. So what I was planning on identifying is $10,000 from the contractual services line item in the planning budget. And then the balance of the $4,000 would be paid for with in-kind services from staff.
okay. So Jacob has a hand up.
Hi, thanks, Madam Chair. Of course, my support still stands, like I said before, and I think John is onto something here. I don't know, and I understand our planning director, her explanation of the timing, because, like as she's pointing out, you'd have to get the application before the CPC like yesterday, because we would have, even under the scenario where the CPA funds funded it, it would have to be approved at this town meeting. And yes, they have a November deadline. Yes, could it be flexible? Perhaps. We're a bit late on that one. I think that hindsight being 2020, this would be a great idea, like John says, of in hindsight maybe having added this. And this isn't meant as a criticism to anyone. I'm just, as a general concept, always going to be favorable, like I think what John is saying, of if there is a possibility of a CPA to pay for something instead of a budget, an operational budget, I'd prefer to use CPA if it qualifies for CPA funding. Even if, as John says, maybe that's the preferred source with a backup of a secondary source, like what I really like that idea. And I'm just saying this as a comment going forward, maybe to be helpful. I'm still supporting it as is. The other comment that I'm going to make is that I know, and I really appreciate the work the planning director has done on this. Like I said, I've been in a lot more weeds that we got into this on the open space committee, but I do have always a little bit of hesitation from also the idea of it's coming from a fiscal year 2027 budget. The way I stand right now, nobody has a fiscal year 2027 budget. There is no fiscal year 2027 budget until it gets approved. And nobody has an approved fiscal year 2027 budget. So to say that the budget's certain and CPA money is not certain, I would say they're both uncertain to a certain extent. I'm not saying that I'm proposing cutting the $15,000 out of the planning director's budget for contractual items. I'm just saying we're having to look really, really hard everywhere in our operating budgets on how we're going to avoid overrides in the next couple of years. And to me, nothing is off the table. That's just a general comment. I'm not trying to make anything more of it. I like the plan as is. I think the planning director's done a good job on this, and I'm ready to support it. But those are kind of my general comments because I think John's making some good points. Thanks.
Okay. Any other comments from the board? All right, then.
Oh, can I make, sorry.
Sure.
I was just going to say, I appreciate the thought into the financial piece of it. And regardless, though, I'm very happy that this project is slowly moving forward. And I'm happy that this is on progress. If residents do want to be able to track the project, is there a central place that they can go? I mean, I probably didn't do a good search, but how can they follow the progress of the Bewalt Trail?
So the town of Westboro has a web page devoted to the B-Walt. And should this project get approved, should we get the grant funds, I anticipated creating our own web page devoted to the town's activities with the B-Walt.
And is this part of the feasibility for the entire trail? Is the whole, like, has Westboro done their feasibility yet in the other towns, or is it all okay?
Yeah, so Westboro completed their feasibility study in 2021. And they are in the process of constructing various pieces of it. So we would, like I said, pick up at the end of the extent of their feasibility study, which is pretty much at the Northborough line, and we would bring it through to the town of Shrewsbury. They have not done a feasibility study, so it would be up to them to pick it up from that point and carry it forward to their town line.
Thank you.
All right. Oh, Mike.
Yeah, sorry, just one last just follow-up question regarding, so it said, Lori, back to my maintenance question, that the sections along like Route 9 may fall to the state, but we're not sure. It's a safe assumption that any constructed trail within Northborough that's maybe not in a state's Mass DOT right away would fall to Northborough to pay for maintenance and replacements, things like that. Is that a fair assumption at this point?
That's a fair assumption.
Okay. CPA funds, right, couldn't be used for ongoing maintenance, but if there was something on a completed trail that needed reconstruction, replacement, or something like that, is that where CPA funds could possibly be used in the future? Or is that
correct?
That's
so
correct. Okay.
If there was, like, for example, one of the things that I would like to see is a trailhead parking lot with signage, like a kiosk with a map. So that's something that the CPA could pay for. And like I said, my intention was to apply to CPA next year to have them cover the 20% match for the design. And then the following year, should that be successful, to apply again for the 20% match for construction.
And Lori, those are all the out-of-pocket costs, the 20% match?
Every single phase of the Mass Trails grant requires a 20% match.
Yeah, there's no other out-of-pocket expense other than the 20% match. That's the Northborough contribution portion of it.
Of course, that's only the case if we were able to secure the grant.
Of course, yeah, understood.
Yeah.
So how do we land? Are we going to go and connect with CPA and get this on the warrant for April for the 10 grand?
I believe it's too late.
Is it self-imposed too late? I mean, well, I don't understand why it's too late.
I'll
Because-
make a call to John Campbell.
Great, thank you.
Okay. But in the meantime, I think we can still vote on our letter of support. So Mike, would you like to make a motion?
Sure, Madam Chair. I move that the board vote to approve and authorize the chair to sign the support letter for the town of Northborough's application to the Mass Trails Grant Program to fund the Walt Trail feasibility study, Northborough to Shrewsbury Extension, as presented.
Second.
Motion made by Mike Tejan, seconded by Laura. All votes.
Clarifying question on the vote, Julianne.
I'm sorry, what?
Just clarifying question for me on the vote.
Yep.
This is voting for a letter of support. We would require an additional vote to use funds or no?
Well, of course, the grant requires a 20% match. So if I don't have a 20% match, I will not be applying for the grant.
Okay, what does it say in your letter regarding that? Our letter. Let's see.
So in the grant application, I have to provide the source of the 20%
Right.
match.
Uh-huh.
So if I don't have it, I will not be submitting the grant application.
Okay. Who had the question?
Jacob,
Jacob.
sorry, I'm trying to just find the universal solution here. I wonder if it would be possible for our planning director to proceed in the grant application, otherwise totally as she anticipated, except on that source of funds, add if CPA funds can be obtained, they'll be used. Otherwise, everything else that you said. So they know that there's a secured source of funds, but that you're just indicating that if possible, which maybe the chances of it are 10% or less, we'll see how good the conversation goes with the two chairs. But would that be a possibility without hurting anything, do you think, to say CPA funds will be sought, but they're not guaranteed? Otherwise, it'll be paid for as you've explained. Would that be too crazy?
Well, of course, we're going to have our CPA meeting on Thursday, CPC. So I can see what they want to do. And if they say no, then what do you want me to do?
Then proceed as you had intended.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So we have a motion on the table made by Mike, seconded by Laura. Any other further discussion? Roll call vote. Jacob.
Aye.
John.
Aye.
Laura.
Aye.
Mike.
Aye.
And I, Julianne Hirsch, vote aye. Congratulations. Please.
Thank you for your support.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next on the agenda is a presentation by Mr. Scanlon about the financial audit. And Jason Little, are you going to join in on that? Like, are you
Yeah, I'll just
starting?
I'll introduce Tom. Tom Scanlon's been our auditor for I think this is our second engagement with Tom. So this would be our fifth
Fourth.
year being audited by him, maybe. I
think
don't
it's
know.
our fourth.
Fourth? Okay, thanks, Tom. Yeah, upon the retirement of the town's long-term auditor, we engaged Tom Scanlon. For many years, we worked with an auditor, Bill Frere. And when Bill retired, we went out to bid, and luckily ended up with Tom Scanlon. Tom Scanlon has many municipal clients and is very experienced. We conducted the audit much earlier this year than the prior year. I think we were before you in June last year to talk about, even though the audit was conducted earlier last year. We're more on a traditional cycle this year. Again, the months are kind of blending together now. So I think it was September and October that Tom was out, his firm was out doing the field work for the audit. So the financial statements got sent out. I sent them out by email. They should be in the packet. I've posted them to the town's website, so those are available. And again, I'll just turn it over to Tom. I don't think he's got a long presentation planned or anything like that, but hopefully we can answer any questions. Thanks.
You.
For
Okay.
those that don't know me, I'm Tom Scanlon. Snowed a lot up here. Hopefully, hopefully it didn't get as much as us. But
Mr.
so
Scanlon, we have two new board members. I don't think
okay,
that John Ray and Jacob Jones. So refresh again, you're in Hadley?
I got Deerfield, Mass.
Deerfield.
Yeah, western part. Right next to Treehouse. I remember the concert was going on last
That's
year,
right.
actually.
That's right. Remember the presentation from the late spring, early summer.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
I was here for that also. It couldn't have been that long ago.
Yeah. But it just as I don't have a spectacular presentation tonight. But the audit went very well. We had no disagreements with management. We gave no correcting journal entries. The town's financial reporting is very, very good. And what I mean by that, when a financial transaction comes into the system, it goes to the proper accounts where it's supposed to go. You have controls over your major accounts like your cash and your accounts receivable. So as far as the town's operating and financial reporting, it's very good. And that goes to, there's a lot of reporting that gets done to outside agencies like Department of Revenue, your bond rating agencies, continuing disclosure, the flow of information, and the agencies from the outside looking at the town, also give you a good rating too. What we're doing is we're doing a financial audit, so we're opining on your financial statements. That's our overall goal. So we're spending a lot of time at the treasurer collector's office, and we're really focusing on the bank statements. We feel like the cash reconciliations are kind of the key to everything, and they're being timely. And again, you have good controls over those. So a lot of our testing is at the detail level of property taxes. We're going into making sure like the detail that's maintained in the collector's office is balancing out the general ledger of the town. So because they were doing a lot of testing in there. Part of the risk when you look at your financial statements, as far as are concerned, is when receipts come in, are they ending up in the right fund? For instance, if you have a Title I grant to not go into the general fund and becoming part of your free cash, and then you're using free cash, which would be an error. So the town has solid controls in place where money's coming in and they're all ending up in the right funds. That's as managed relative files on the board stuff, I would want to hear that your controls are working, and your finance team, you have an excellent finance team. I have the ability to look across 75 audits across the state of Mass, so do a lot of comparing of other towns. And again, you're very sound. I know some other questions I get in other towns is like what's going on right now on the federal side of things is your federal aid is about 2.4 million last year, and about 1.4 is that it was ARPA. So again, that's kind of a one and done type program. So your federal aid kind of given average is about $1 million. That's mostly in the school department, like school lunch, and your sped grants. And then I don't know if you have any specific questions.
Jacob Jones.
Hi, thanks to our auditor, and I really wanted to just say thanks and congratulations to our finance director, our accountant, and all of their team. I know they're a pretty humble group, but they do a lot of work, and they don't get a lot of credit sometimes, or it's just sort of one of those thankless jobs that's done. And I wanted to genuinely say thank you, because what I just heard was a very glowing review of our finance director and their department. Mr. Scanlon, my only big picture question is, did you have a comment? And I've read it, your review, but could you comment on the state of our reserves? Are they healthy? Are
Yeah,
they?
so yeah, if you're looking at the financial report, your financial statements on page 20, That is your governmental balance sheet, and then the general fund, and that's where your reserves are. You look under unassigned fund balance, your unassigned fund balance is 13.3 million, which as a benchmark when bond rating agencies are looking at you, is they compare it to your budget, and your budget's approximately about $76 million. Even though I think it jumped up in 2026, about 80 million. So you're about 15 to 16% of your reserves are of the budget, which is it's sound. So yeah, your reserves. I'm a reserve person. Allows you to pivot. Especially what we have lying ahead here, kind of some uncertainty. So yeah, your reserves are very sound. Your practices, your financial practices are working on your financial statements, and I look at you. So
Well, thank you. Yeah,
yeah.
the reason I'm asking, I was listening to our appropriations committee meeting earlier this week. And we're obviously working on our fiscal 2027 budgets, and
Yep.
some of the questions that came up, and I'm not saying that they making a hard suggestion here, and these are hard questions, but a few of the members of that committee were commenting on, is it getting to be an appropriate time to dip into reserves? I don't think a strong pitch was made for that. But one of the things that our board did do, which was unusual, was vote to not make our normal contribution to general stabilization, which, from my perspective, isn't intended to be an ongoing thing, because of course, as you say, you're a reserves person, and I think responsible reserves are good. It's just one of those, it's a hard question to know, at what point, you don't want to have structural deficits where you're relying on reserves. But for example, our school committee was talking about what looks to be like a one-time spike on a SPED funding issue that may get reimbursed next year. So that maybe there's a temporary blip. And I'm wondering is that the kind of thing that maybe a reserve could be used for? And these are big picture questions. I'm not saying necessarily for you to advise us on that specifically.
Yeah.
Be outside of your scope, but I mean, generally reserves are for one-off, not structural fixes, but one-off situations that aren't expected to recur. But anyway, that's my questions about reserves, is because I'm trying to figure out, I want to have a healthy reserve, but not too healthy of a reserve when we are looking at possible 2.5 overrides in the near future. You know what I'm saying?
No, I get that question all the time. It's when's an appropriate time to dip into your reserves? That's a tough question. I usually tell people is reserves are there to use. That's why you build them. And if you have to get through tough times and using them, is as long as you have a plan. So free cash is non-reoccurring, right? So if you're going to start using it to fund your budget, that something's reoccurring, you're eventually going to run out of your reserves. But if you have a plan, say, hey, we're going to touch our reserves because we're going to fund these rising costs in our budget, and we're going to have a plan over 2-3 years. And then your plan is to replenish those. I would say that's good. You just don't want to say, okay, I'm going to start your say your free cash. It was like 5.2 million. If you were using 3 million of that for reoccurring, and you're only generating 2 million in your budget to replenish free cash, you got what, 5 years before you start draining the 5 million. As long as you have a plan to come off it, which I've had a few communities where they tapped into the reserves, but they had a plan down the road where they went to an override and they were going to put it into stabilization and build it back up after a 5-year period. So it's a very tough question. I mean, that's why you guys get the big bucks sitting on the board of selectmen to make those decisions.
That's a good one. Well, thank you, Mr. Scanlon. Thanks, Madam Chair.
I think Jason wanted to comment also, then I'll go to you, John.
Yeah, so again, I mean, I just want to reiterate one of the auditor's comments, which was that we have financial policies and we followed those policies many years. Again, those comments came up at the last appropriations meeting about dipping into reserves to pay one-time SPED expenses. We're waiting to hear more from the school committee and the superintendent about the one-time nature of those expenses, because as you know, I mean, if we're using all of our levy capacity this year and dipping into reserves to fund a larger budget increase because of these one-time expenses, I think those students are still going to be there, and we're going to have to plan for them in the next year as well. So it's going to exacerbate the deficit that we're going to have in 28. So again, I'd comment and caution that thought that we have a lot of reserves. And as Tom mentioned, he pointed you to a page of our financial statements, and this is one of the things that's complicated with the financial audit is that we got basically have three different bases of accounting to keep our books in. So we have our day-to-day accounting, which the I think it's page 27 or 23, which is the closest to our day-to-day accounting, but we also have fund accounting that we use, and that's what Tom was referencing, the proportion of our unassigned fund balance to the budget. That number includes stabilization, so it gets added back in, even though on a day-to-day basis it's not in the general stabilization's not in the general fund. And then the cover sheet, the top end is gap-based statements. So that's full accrual. That's the most like a business's accounting that those statements are in. But anyway, I just want to make the point, and again, I'm sorry, I'm being long and tangential, but our bond rating agency looks at our proportion of unassigned fund balance to the revenues of the town. So our revenues are basically the entire, general funds budget, which is, somewhere between 80 and 98 million dollars. Our budget for next year is $90 million that we're working with in the budget model. So our current percentage, where we're rated as a double A is at 18%. And to be a AAA rated community, you have to have 25%. So that's significantly more money in reserves. And that's one of the mitigating factors and that we used toward crafting these financial policies some time ago. And there's nothing to say that we can't change financial policies. There's nothing to say we can't reconsider it or make a multi-year plan. But that's what I think is important, is to listen and have a multi-year plan approach to that, and not just use stabilization toward the operating budget, because that'll create what's called a structural deficit. So thanks. That was the nature of my comments. Thanks.
Thank you. John Ray.
Thank you. And Jason, appreciate the comments. And I agree. I don't want to operating budget dip into any reserves. I mean, that's irresponsible. I do appreciate the things that are transitory and one time in nature. I think we're the rainy days here. Like, I mean, if I'd like to better understand, to think about that $13 million on a $90 million budget. And Tom, was that the number? Was it $13 million in reserve on?
Yeah. So your unassigned fund balance that Jason commented on it's really your free cash and your stabilization fund. So what makes that 13 million up?
It's 13. So
yeah,
I have that. Yeah. Sorry. Go on.
Yeah. So the state is very conservative when they're doing free cash. So they take away from you basically your overlay balance. So if you take your free cash, your stabilization, you add your overlay balance to the number, that you'll come back to that 13 million. And that's what the bond rating agency is looking for. So what you have access to is really your free cash and your stabilization funds, which total 11.8 million as of June 30th, 2025.
Okay. And then what are some of the reserve percentages that you see? We're at 14 or 15%. Like, and it seemed, what I've heard is that, kudos to us in terms of like our, financial tracings, and we're doing processes correctly. And that's all great to hear. Not surprising for me, knowing the talent we have on the team. But when it comes to like how we think about the financial capacity of the town and that piece of it, how should we think about that 14 or 15% if we were to think about dipping into that for some one-time things?
I think, as long as you're using it for one-time things, I think it'd be appropriate, because you're also generating, like if you look on your financial statement, page 24 is your budget versus actual, and that kind of gives you a look at how you're generating your free cash. And looking at over like a 4 or 5 year span, I think would be useful. Are we getting it back from return of appropriations? We get it back on the revenue side. So dipping into it, but like I said, as long as you have a plan. You don't want to start using reserves to start funding reoccurring expenses like for salaries.
And I'm thinking, of course, I'm thinking of more in terms if we go to 14%, do we level it at 10%? And that's good financial stewardship,
So
or like,
it's it's funny, years ago, I mean, I'm going way back, but 10% used to be good. When you got to 10% and bond rating companies would look at you. But now, most communities are getting above the 10%. And they're approaching, like, probably more common than not, towns are around 15%. But again, it's what you're comfortable with and how you're using them. Like OPEB funds, it's another. It used to be high on OPEB funds, but now looking at things is, do you want to take away from roads and services to put into OPEB? So yeah, I mean, it's definitely the conversations are going to have to be made here coming. I think future budgets here, 27, 28, 29. I think you're going to see communities dip into their reserves. But again, have a plan to put it back into place. And that's what I would recommend is make sure you have a plan to get it back.
Thank you.
thank you.
Any other comments or questions from the board? And I don't see any public comment. Well, thank you very much. Thank you to our financial team. No vote is required on this tonight, it seems, right, Diane? So, well, again, yeah, Jason?
Oh, can I just say thanks for the kind words, Tom, and I appreciate the working with Tom's firm and his people on the audit. I just want to thank the treasurer's office and Lisa Trost is our treasurer collector. She does a great job. The folks in that office do a great job, and again, the assessor's office, they're in there as well, and the accountant Katie, and like I just want to give everybody share credit because Tom said some kind words about our entire department, so I just want to recognize them and thank them for their efforts.
Yeah, no, it's a very solid team. So, and then if anyone has any concerns about anything throughout the year, like I always encourage people to reach out to our firm, like, because we're assessing risk of your financial statement. There might be some concerns, various areas you want us to look at. Don't be afraid to reach out with questions, or if you may just have a question about, I don't know, concern about something, please reach out.
Right. Thank you so much.
Yep. Have a good one.
I think we have one more comment. Jacob?
Oh, this is for the chair. Thanks, Mr. Scanlon. This is a future agenda item thing, but it's on point of this topic. I would like, if you wouldn't mind considering putting a future agenda item. I don't want to just leave this hanging. I think that the board ought to talk about voting on possible direction for looking at a plan in the 3 to 4 year period that would be responsible, like the advice we've just gotten, but that may include some short-term dipping that we can match up with one-time costs. Again, depending on what the superintendent lets us know on the recurring nature of some of these things, at least that we discuss and possibly vote on a direction to have a responsible plan that along the lines that Mr. Scanlon was talking about. But we can't do that right now, so maybe a future agenda item.
Okay, I just wrote it down.
Thanks.
But you can remind me when we get to future agenda items.
Appreciate it.
All right. Any other comments on this topic? All right, again, thank you, Mr. Scanlon, and see you in a year, if not before. Okay, next on the agenda is a discussion of AARP Network of Age-Friendly States and Communities. Possible vote to authorize enrollment. Presented by Carol. You have to help me with Brunick,
Yes.
our senior center director. So good evening.
Hi. So yes, we wanted, at the senior center, of course, we're thinking about older adults. And I don't know if anyone's aware of this age-friendly communities. AARP has been sponsoring this or managing this since 2012. And basically, it's a way to join up with them, get resources, and use those to make decisions about different projects the town may be doing, taking older adults into account. So there's 8 domains they have. So basically, when you're doing projects involving housing, outdoor areas, social inclusion, transportation, work, and civic engagement, that you would have a framework using this age-friendly communities to consider, okay, we're making a trail, for example. How could we make sure that this is going to work for older people too? Is there something we should keep in mind? So an example of this would be, for instance, currently there's trails near the senior center, and then this little accessible trail was made behind it around the pond. So that's something that's taking older adults into account. So by joining this age-friendly communities, basically you're saying older adults are important to our community, which, since there's about 25% of older adults in the community, it is important. And then that we're going to commit, when we're doing projects, to look at things and say, okay, how do older adults fit into this, whatever it might be.
Do you know of any surrounding communities that were that belong to this AARP network?
So I don't know the names exactly, but I can tell you. So Massachusetts joined as a state. There's 13 states, I believe, that have joined, and Massachusetts is one of them. And then communities can, and when you look at the map, you know, they have the little thing showing who's joined. Massachusetts is almost solid dots, because especially sort of from Worcester to Boston, that and where it's more populated, I mean, most communities have joined. And we have already joined the dementia-friendly communities. That was several years ago. And so things that came out of that, for example, is now we have a day program at the senior center. So people who have Alzheimer's or other memory issues have once a week, you know, a program for them. Things like that can come out of it. And the age-friendly and dementia-friendly communities programs often work together because they have a lot of similar interests. So many communities have joined.
So, look, you know, I think next on the agenda is we're discussing sidewalks. So, would like, you know, in applying for a grant, let's say, would support from a town that is an age-friendly, an AARP network of age-friendly town, would that support an application that we are also considering?
What it would support is, so there are some AARP grants that you can get for age-friendly, you know, specifically targeting area of age-friendly communities, but also because you have this age-friendly net, like you organize different committees or a committee, depending on the town, you know, different towns do it different ways, but you're ahead of time, you're assessing, okay, these are the needs of our town. This is how we want to include older adults. And then when you're applying for a grant for something, you can say, and by the way, we are an age-friendly community. We've taken this type of thing into account into our planning. So it makes your grant stronger, and it makes you, you know, people aware that you're taking the interest of all citizens into account and not just, you know, younger people, maybe school-age children, that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I see 2 hands. Lisa Mazzelli?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Lisa Maselli, 13 Maple Street. It's interesting that this would come up as it is now. I've heard there's a Northborough Housing Coalition that's again, it's not part of the municipal group, but it is a separate group that's looking for support. How does this work in with that, if you can tell me?
It would be an area where there could be cooperation. So this is set up, it depends on the town. Generally speaking, you have one committee, maybe in a small town. In a larger town, sometimes you'll have one sort of central committee, and then you might have a special committee for housing, or maybe for transportation or for outdoor. It really depends on the needs of the town and what the town wants to prioritize. So in this case, it could be if there were considerations, say at the beginning you do a needs assessment. So say people in the town say, we really care about housing, we want more housing. Then you would likely form a committee to see, okay, what could be done? What are the possibilities? And likely somebody from that other group would join in on that since they have some expertise.
So it's much like the CMRPC or something? I mean, I know that the AARP it's really a lobbying group. I mean, it takes care of many things, but I as a senior, I'm a little concerned. You want benefits. No question that you want benefits, but I'm concerned that we keep talking about housing and extra housing and affordable housing, and I don't want to have that kind of an overlap right now when we have so much else to concern ourselves with. Have we had a lot of seniors come into the center and ask for this?
We have seniors who want to be represented in their community. So we have not done a needs assessment. So by doing that, by having surveys, by having focus groups, you find out what people in town are interested in. So this would not necessarily have anything to do with housing. It really depends on what the town wants, what older adults, but what actually all people in the town want. It isn't something where you just take senior interest into town, because you might have people in their 40s who plan on staying in the town and they want to have their voice, of course, heard too. This is what we think is important as we're aging. So it's not anything that's prescribed in any way. It's simply a framework and access to resources for the town then to say, okay, these are issues that are important to us. How can we take older adults into consideration?
All right, thank you very much.
Is that okay, Lisa? Are you?
Well, I'm not, I'm not necessarily, in support of this yet. I think we need to talk about it a little bit more before votes go in. I mean, it's a new thing, and I think many of the times we get proposals, we don't have enough information before we make voting or decisions. So I'd recommend waiting on making that decision right now. But thank you.
Thank you. Scott Charpentier, you have your hand up.
I do. Thank you, Madam Chair. And my camera is still down, so I apologize. Carol, thank you for bringing this forward. AARP is a wonderful program, and I just want to let everyone know that we were awarded a grant 2 years ago to support the ADA accessible trail around the pond at the senior center. So there is a little placard on one of the wheelchair accessible tables there acknowledging AARP's generous grant they provided to us. So I didn't want that to go unmentioned.
The beautiful trail, by the way.
Well, thank
Mike
you.
Dejan.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Just two questions. One, just a request for a point of order. Just if we could go to board members and staff prior to public comment for agenda items. I think that would to keep the flow of the way we normally handle agenda items would be good. Thanks, Scott, for mentioning that previously accepted grant. Looking at what the process is for the AARP, right? It kind of seems rather mostly rather positive. Looking at like the steps of it, there's enrollment, and then like year one, conducting a needs assessment, year two, develop an action plan. Is that something, conducting the needs assessment, developing an action plan, is that something that we do in conjunction with AARP? Do they provide some level of expertise to kind of, they ask us for data and information that we submit and they look at it, or is our staff tasked to do that? Would you see some portion of your time as staff time being used towards this if we were to enroll and go down the steps? I assume implementing anything, that's like anything else the town spends money on, that's a much larger conversation. But in that needs assessment action plan, are there town resources being used, or are they providing some level of expertise for that?
So they don't provide expertise. They don't give you their opinion. What they do have are resources on how to do it. and different ways that you can do it, how to hold a focus group, how to do surveys and that type of thing. So it would be staff time involved in that. And we would also be looking for volunteers who want to get involved in this, because that's typical that volunteers get involved in this type of process.
Okay, so it wouldn't be like something you're specifically looking for some budgetary earmark or piece for to pay for a conduct a needs assessment or develop a plan. It would just be sort of within
No,
your
I mean, that's
normal.
certainly done at times, obviously people pay for needs assessments sometimes. I would think, judging the way, it's a tight time on budgets in general, so we weren't really thinking of that, route. We were thinking more of doing a self needs assessment. And the thing about this is, you do your assessment, you make your decisions. Okay, we're going to look into these projects. You'd maybe complete some of the projects or get them going. And then you go through this, it's a cycle, so again, then maybe in whatever 5-10 years you might also do a new needs assessment, and say, okay, how are things now, because things change over time. Clearly I think COVID made that really apparent.
Okay.
And so so at the beginning it can really be a very small commitment. I mean, if you think, okay, it's a low budget time, but let's get it started. Let's do a needs assessment, a local one that's not too involved, get some things going, and then build on it over time.
I mean, I think that makes sense, and I think in general, right, this seems like something that's kind of easy to support. So I appreciate you answering those questions. Thank you.
Jacob, your hand is up.
Hi, thanks, and thanks, Madam Director. We talked about this a little bit in Council on Aging. My kind of question following on Mr. Tejan's, do we think, and I know you're not speaking for the Council on Aging per se, but do we think that there's ability to use that existing council to help us with these assessments, or are you thinking that we would need to do a new committee? I'm just looking at what their current charter says, their charge, I guess you would say. The purpose of the Council on Aging is to maintain or increase the quality of life for the mature citizens, and I think we're trying to say more older adults nowadays, of the community through advocacy, planning, coordination, implementation of programs. It seems to me consistent with what their charge is, but I was wondering if you had a view of whether we can use the Council on Aging to help us advance these initiatives, if we're a age-friendly community, or kind of what your vision in the next years would be.
Our idea was to start a new committee specifically for this. Now, that doesn't mean there could be definitely some people from the Council on Aging on that, but not all of the people in the Council on Aging have time for extra, it's, I don't know that they want to make a commitment beyond that, nor do they want the meetings necessarily to be all on the age-friendly communities. So we're thinking of getting some other people involved, and then some people from the Council on Aging if they're interested.
Okay.
Well, would this be a town committee like any other committee then? Where the select board approves the members, or how did you imagine that?
Well, I thought initially we would just have a committee that's sort of associated with the senior center. Committees can be kind of involved and a little bit confusing. So
more focus group is what you're saying, kind of?
So the committee initially is going to be involved to sort of hold this needs assessment. So it's not going to be a committee making, a lot of big decisions or how, they're doing. And the initial part is the thrust is doing this collecting information through focus groups or through questionnaires, or there's different ways of doing it, collecting data to see how the town wants to move forward. And that would give the town also time to figure out how, what sort of commitment to make as far as if you want to have these other committees. Usually, I don't think the committees are part of sort of the town existing committees, the different committees around different departments.
John Ray.
I'm digesting this. I mean, it seems like benign on the surface, right? It seems like it's a no cost thing that the town can do to try to go and get representation for these 25% of our residents, that make sure that um, engagement and understanding. What I'm struggling with is, are they not engaged now? And like thinking of our existing committees, and I've spent time at the senior center, and it's remarkable. The center itself and the people that go there on a routine basis. I think it's a really it's a hidden gem of Northborough. In fact, I guess it opened my eyes to how many people that actually use that as their go-to senior center outside of Northborough. Like, it seems like we've set the gold standard in what we've done there. And I'm all about making investments for all the things that you've discussed, Carol. What I'm struggling with is the need. Like, and I've got committee anxiety. Like, I mean, you create committees and they go off and do things, and it just becomes this thing. Like, do we not have the infrastructure in place where we can accomplish the needs based on how we're set up today?
I mean, we could just do, the senior center could just lead, surveys and focus groups, to kind of collect data or something, and get an idea of what the community would like, beyond it, because it does include beyond the senior center, like, so housing or just community involvement and that type of thing. But you could just have a committee within the senior center, a group that meets and does this type of thing. My thought was to include other people in the town, people who would have an interest in older adults, or who, for instance, from the DPW think, okay, this strengthens our grants, we want to be involved, just, somewhat have a foot in it at some point, so that when we're applying for grants, we can say we're an age-friendly community. A lot of it can be very sort of a feel-good type of thing. To some extent, it is just saying, hey, we're recognizing that older people are important. And so when we're doing things, we're just going to take the time to make sure that we're considering older people. It really depends on the town.
Laura?
Thank you for looking into this. And I do like the idea of finding more ways to really include our older adults into our decision-making process. I do also love the path that we have at the senior center, the accessible path. I was under the impression that this was something that would be in collaboration with the Council on Aging. I didn't realize that it might be something separate or different. I mean, how would this work differ from what they're already doing?
So what it is including the needs of older adults when there are decisions in town about housing, about transportation, about social inclusion. So if you're having like different celebrations in town or something, just that like the committee would take into account older adults, or outdoor spaces when you're planning outdoor spaces. So it goes beyond the senior center. So the senior center is important for a lot of people who are older adults and come. And then some older adults do other things too. They go to the senior center, but they might also like hiking, or they might need housing, or they might whatever. It depends on the town, and there's really different issues. So what you're doing is getting a group of people together who can do focus groups and do surveys and find out what are the needs and desires of older people, or people who are aging and are thinking of, okay, what do I want for my town when I'm older? And getting those thoughts together and then saying, okay, people are very interested in housing. We want to have a housing group that takes older adults into account. And you very well, since you already, if you have another committee, then you might cooperate with those people. Again, it depends on the town.
Yeah, Carol, I'm still struggling with why not just higher involvement from that cohort in our existing committees. Like, we have Council on Aging, we've got all of these great committees and initiatives that the town rallies around, that many people here support, that play a role in. And I don't see how this accomplishes more than just getting better representation and town involvement in general. And I do find that cohort to be highly engaged. I hear them on taxes all the time. People want affordability. They want to make sure when we create committees that work with committees, these are the things that I think that haven't worked very well in this town. Like, I think then we get special interest groups, and not to say that this is that, but these are the things I think about when I see another body that's going to work with other committees, and then we have a meeting on something and no one really knows what it is, and is it sanctioned or chartered or not. And so while I think I don't, the intent's not bad. I'm just trying to go and understand, like, is the value there versus our existing infrastructure we have today?
Mm-hmm.
What about this? It seems like the board has a lot of detailed questions. Carol, how would you feel about going back to Council on Aging and your staff to come up with a little more of a concrete approach?
What approach? I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
More of a defined approach.
Mm-hmm.
What do you, would that be agreeable to the board? Is that kind of what we're?
Yeah, I would like to have the Council on Aging feedback on the different methods that this may be implemented.
But also your staff. I mean, truthfully, I think the needs assessment is critical. Will the needs assessment include affordability in town? That's, the big questions. And also, my experience has been that these needs assessments are critically important because that's kind of your charge, well, this is what the survey said, and this is how we're going to move forward. So that survey, to me, I want to know, I want it to be as comprehensive as possible. Not, you know what I'm saying? Like, just get as much information as we possibly can get, because that's sometimes our outline for how we move forward. As you said, after that, you do the action plan. But it all starts with the needs assessment. So I don't know if I'm being clear. What do you think about, a couple of weeks to think about this, from us and from Carol and her staff?
I'm sorry. I was just going to say I would be happy with doing that. If you want more information, I can definitely get more detailed information.
Jacob.
I think that's a great suggestion, Madam Chair. I mentioned the Council on Aging before. I sit in their meetings, at least since I learned that I was their liaison. I missed a few before that, but I've been following their meetings now. And I wouldn't want to presume to ask them to do more than what they think that they're supposed to do. And that's why I'd want to be careful. But I also would like to do, as what the chair said, ask them, and Madam Director can help us with that. Ask them what would they be comfortable in supporting a role in conjunction with, if we go ahead and say, hey, we're an age-friendly community, would they like to have more defined roles to help, address Mr. Ray's point, and just to, again, I don't want to tell them to do things that they weren't wanting to do or expecting to do when they were appointed, because of course they all busy. I know that they're actually planning on a survey right now, but it sounds like the survey that they're planning on is more of a senior center needs or interest survey. That's not exactly the same. It's a little different than the survey that you're talking about, I think. Am I right? Yeah. So maybe they're going to be surveyed out by the end of the next couple of months, and maybe there is a need for a different resource. But I just would like to really. I heard of it the first time in the last Council on Aging meeting, and I've been getting myself up to speed on this topic since then. So now I feel like I know more. But I do think getting one more meeting with them and getting their feedback to us would be helpful from my perspective.
Okay, so is there any objection to waiting to get more information? Speak now.
No, I'd appreciate it. Thank you so much, Carol. I look forward to learning more about this. And is there a deadline for when we need to complete this agreement?
No, not at all.
Okay.
And
thank you very much.
Thank you so much for bringing this to our attention. I think we all agree it's a great thing. We just want to make sure we're doing it correctly.
That sounds great. Okay.
Thank you.
Carol.
Bye. Thank you.
All right. Now we have sidewalk improvements. Scott Charpentier.
Madam Chair, thank you for having me and board members. You have a memorandum.
Scott, before you begin.
Of course.
I think I can speak for the board. The roads look fantastic in town. Thank you so much to you and your whole department. And that it's pretty impressive work there.
Oh, oh,
Thank you so much.
I'll be sure to extend that to the guys when their eyes are open and they are cognitive of their surroundings. It's been a long 48 hours.
I bet, but it was very impressive. I was driving around today and no problem. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyway, on to sidewalks. So
Sidewalks. Yeah, so you have a memorandum in your packet that includes essentially three different phases of sidewalk work. One is planning. The board suggested that we look into having an update on our sidewalk capital improvement plan. So I received a proposal from our engineering consultant to reevaluate all of our sidewalks in town to a little bit of a deeper dive and prepare a capital improvement plan for them. We have approximately 34 miles of sidewalk in town. It would include a 10-year capital plan, which follows what the town's new capital outlook is, 10 years as opposed to 6. And there'll be some back and forth, quite a bit of back and forth on correlating the sidewalk work with complete streets, with our roadway capital improvement plan and the likes. The price and the cost for that was $28,500. We have a construction project as well. When the ARPA funds were being rapidly expended at the end of calendar 25, we went forward with calendar 24. We went forward with some design services on sidewalks. The results can be seen on Allen Street. That construction has been completed, and Gale and Monroe as well. Those are done. One of the projects that was designed but not constructed was South Street between Gale and West Main Street. As you drive by after the Assabet Park, you're near Leland's legal office. There's cement concrete sidewalks on both sides, granite curbing. The granite curbing reveal has been diminished substantially due to overlays of the roadway. That project includes removing all of the cement concrete, the granite curb, remove and reset, and install new cement concrete, and mill out approximately 3 inches of asphalt and put back an inch and a half of asphalt to regain some of the curb reveal. The cost for that project is approximately $177,000. There are also 5 design projects that are on the Complete Streets prioritization list. There are a varying degree of design services needed on them. In your memorandum, you're familiar with these. Davis Street from Lanthorn to Hamilton. That's a challenging section. It would require closed drainage system, something new, and it requires topographical survey as well as boundary surveys and the like. Howard Street from Church Street to Winter. When you go by Z School, you see all the mud on the Z School side where the buses park. It's a tough area. There's no closed drainage. That's very similar to Davis. We'd have to have boundary survey and closed drainage design. Pine Haven, which is probably the most challenging of all of them, would connect Lincoln Street, where the schools are, to downtown, Times Square and Rockies Plaza. That is if you've driven down that road, it's a challenge. It's a very narrow road. There are slope issues, utility pole issues, and drainage issues. The easiest one is a Pleasant Street and Church Street. So we just did the RRFBs at Pleasant and Lincoln up by Melican Middle School. The sidewalk from that location heading down toward Church Street, across Church and over to Howard, is in poor condition. It's doesn't comply with MAAB standards nor ADA standards. That would be more of a book job, which means they basically provide details and specifications, but really don't need survey because the sidewalk is already there, and we're not concerned about private property encroachments. The last one is River Street, which is also a challenge. The logical side of the street for the sidewalk is where the bridge sidewalk is, but unfortunately, that's where all the utility poles are. So you have to put it on the other side. And there are some tight right-of-way constraints there. So what prompted all this is we have $170,000 of remaining capital funds for sidewalks and drainage improvements from this last town meeting. Those funds help support lining of two culverts. We did a kind of a new treatment on Howard and Church Street, cured and placed pipe, saved the community a lot of money, and those monies that were saved are sitting there in the capital fund, and I'm asking the select board to provide direction on how to expend those. And in addition to the $170,000, I'm happy to announce that there was a $65,000 earmark approved in the FY26 state budget, specific to downtown sidewalk improvements. It's the language in the earmark is somewhat vague, which is good for us. What is downtown? I don't know. Is it Times Square to White Cliffs? What is improvements? Is it design? Is it construction? So there's a lot of flexibility with that $65,000 earmark. So you put the 170 together with the 65, and the select board has a nice pocketbook of funds for sidewalk improvements.
Okay, at this time, I should mention that we received 2 emails from residents on Pine Haven who very strongly asked us to consider them to consider that project. I would assume that means that there's a lot of pedestrian traffic going from Pine Haven to Lincoln Street, I guess it is, right?
Correct.
Okay,
I did not see those emails, Madam Chair. If you could forward them along, that would be fantastic.
sure.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll open it up to the board. Does anybody have any thoughts or opinions about this? Okay, then, Mike, your hand is up.
Oh, go on, Mike. I'll raise my hand.
Thank you. Yeah, kind of the way I'm thinking about it, right, is we have this sum of money. We have 170,000 that, all or some of it we could carry over and maybe not need as much in the next budget for, because we have this also $65,000 earmark that we have that we can use for sidewalks. So when I was, looking at the materials for this meeting, kind of, and where could we maybe do some improvement or find a way to get to repair or new sidewalk is, looking at, okay, where are people, where are we getting feedback? I know I've gotten previous feedback from about Pine Haven, previous feedback on Davis. I know we've identified Howard sidewalk is in need of a lot of work and a lot of repair. So kind of the way I was looking at it was, within the amount we have to work with, is there a way to move the ball down the field on design for maybe those 3 as a priority, so that we're ready for maybe the next complete streets when that comes around, so we can get money for construction and get new sidewalks or refurb sidewalks in the areas that need it, but still maybe hold some in surplus and move that on to the next budget, to maybe take a little bit off of that, to be cognizant of where we are financially. So that's kind of what I was just kind of thinking in general.
Madam Chair, can I quickly respond?
Please.
So there is the Safe Routes to Schools grant program. We discussed that about construction of the sidewalk on Maple Street. I have not spoken with the superintendent about it at all. The schools take the lead on those grant applications, but the Howard Street and Pleasant and Church would likely be eligible for Safe Routes to Schools because of the proximity of Z School, as well as Melican heading to downtown. And then the Pine Haven segment may also be deemed eligible for the Safe Routes to School in that it accesses Lincoln Street Elementary School to the downtown area. So that's just food for thought on the construction side, kind of echoing what Mike said. If we can get things queued up with design, there may be an opportunity in the event the superintendent is in favor of those types of applications.
John.
Scott, just reacting to something that you said that spurred thinking. So who owns the Maple Street Safe Route to School action item? Like, I don't want to. I guess I want to ensure that we don't miss deadlines, that it's visible, that the priorities, we have alignment. Is there clear ownership on that to make sure that we're driving towards that?
The Maple Street sidewalk design is at 60% level. We're going for a conservation permit in March. The February meeting was canceled. So the design will be ready for an application. But again, the schools lead the charge on that application. The Public Works and the for lack of better terms, general fund really doesn't lead that charge. So I'm here to support Greg and his staff and whatever they want to move forward. My preference is to have more projects in the can ready to go so that when money does come available, we don't have to say, oh no, we're not ready yet. So I believe Maple Street will be ready in the event the superintendent chooses to support it.
I think it's an easy sell. I can't imagine that we're not going to get support for sidewalks to our schools. I just want to make sure if we need to get in front of any committees or that we're doing that.
Yeah, I can say as the liaison, John, I remind them quite often of the priority for Maple Street, and that. So I know that I've spoken and reached out to them before about it. So
and they've been supportive, I imagine, Mike.
Yeah, without sort of landing on a firm yes, or they see the need and they understand the need and they know what the town has done to kind of move the ball down the field as far as design is concerned. I think the town's, or at least the select board is in a spot of agreement where there's a priority on Maple. Obviously we're looking at Peasley and a redesign of a school. To me, it wouldn't make sense to do a major renovation or redesign of a school without a safe way to walk to it. So I think it kind of all comes together. And hopefully conversations with the K through 8 school committee and the superintendent, they land on a yes. But I think our board and the amount of discussion we've had on it, when I tell them it's a priority for the select board, I think that's true. So I think they understand that.
We don't need to flesh that out now. Make sure we have alignment. I think that, to me, and this may be simple thinking, that the different budgets, the grants, they're not going to be competing for resources. So it should be something that we have a strong consensus on. But I didn't hear that when you just spoke about it. I heard that generally supportive, I think so, and not as much conviction.
Right. I mean, I can't in an open meeting state that I've gotten a hard yes, that, oh yeah, no, absolutely, this is what we're moving forward on. I haven't had, to their point, right, it's not something they necessarily have to decide on right now. So, right, you make a decision when that time comes. So I can in good faith say, oh yeah, no, absolutely, this is what they've said and this is a done deal, for anybody who, wants that Maple Street sidewalk done and knows the importance of it. The accurate information is there's not a hard yes yet. So that's what I'm trying to convey. I think there's support and I think there's a good shot at it, but I can't say, yeah, 100% it's going to get done. It's just a matter of stamping it,
Should we get a hard yes before we apply for the grant or do more work?
Well, generally grants, I'm sorry to interrupt. Generally,
No,
the Safe Routes to Schools grants are due in fall. So I think once the school committee gets through the fiscal struggles and town meeting is in our rearview mirror, that would be a good opportunity to engage them, fully on what they want to go forward with. It's not a spring grant. It's a fall grant application.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay.
Yeah, Scott, you explained it better than I could, so thank you.
And then getting back to kind of my original thought, Scott, just some clarifying things. So we've done everything we wanted to do for sidewalks that we had planned for and we have $170,000 left over. Is that generally a correct statement?
Um, we have $170,000 remaining. Yes, we haven't spent any of the town meeting appropriation for the capital article on sidewalks. It all went toward culverts. The two culverts that failed, one on Howard and one on Church Street. So the $170,000 is remaining in the capital article, and the article indicates it's for drainage and sidewalk improvements. So
And did we dip into that fund to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on crosswalk installation?
no.
Is that where that money would come from, though? Would it come from our sidewalks? I'm recalling a meeting we had in the past and seeing if I ever right.
It could have. It could have come from that, but it did not.
Where did that come from? Just out of
We utilized I'll have to take a look. I believe it was in our paving operating budget from encumbrance from FY25, but I'll take a look and
Okay.
send you an email.
Okay, cool. And then just to be clear on the 65,000, I don't know if it was characterized as a grant or state money, that can be used, and it sounded like we had some. It was written with some ways for us to be used generously. That was what I heard. But would you look to reduce the 170 by the 65, or add the 170 and 65 and get to 235?
It would be a 235 for sidewalks, and again, I'd like to preface it. If a culvert fails tomorrow, I may be sending an email out to the board saying we need to fix this in an emergency fashion. But right now, our culverts are in decent shape, knock on wood. I'm aware of what our deficiencies are and where, and I don't see any like imminent demands. So yeah, 235 for sidewalks, I believe, is what the board should be considering.
And we have 1.8 for Assabet Hill in our upcoming budget. Is that right?
1.8.
Okay, so we could
1.8
potentially
million in
use
the capital
some of
plan.
it to fund that as well, I guess.
We could, yes, absolutely.
Okay, cool.
Yep. And
Thank
we
you.
have sorry to interrupt, but we have $1.1 million of paving funds annually between Chapter 90 for 500, capital for 300, and operating for 300. So after town meeting, in the event the capital articles pass, the 1.1 plus the 2 we have gets us to 1.3, and then if they approve 300,000 for drainage and sidewalks again, that gets us to 1.6 and leaves us 200K short on Assabet. In the event the board wanted to put all the money into one big pile and say we'll fix Assabet Hill.
Okay, that's super helpful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Jacob.
Hey, Mike, could you remind me the three that you were kind of for? You said three, and I was really trying to pay close attention, but I want to make sure I figured out which three you were saying.
Sure. So I was saying Pine Haven, Davis, and Howard.
Okay, so the first three on this list, like the 5 bullet points. Is that right?
I think it was, yeah.
That's correct.
Yeah, Davis from Lanthorn Road to Hamilton, Howard from Church to Winter Street, Pine Haven from West Lincoln, right? Cool. I did one clarifying question for you, Scott, and thanks again for all your work. The under the heading construction that talks about the South Street 177. Am I right to understand you're not saying we need to apply that 177 is funded elsewhere from the ARPA article? We're not saying we need to use our 177 out of our 235 to do that. Is that right?
No, that is not correct.
Okay, can
The
you say
ARPA funds were appropriated for design layout for that section. The very similar level of detail as Galen Monroe engineer went out, used some GIS information, a couple of measurements on the short money, and said, "Here we go." South Street got put in the can. Galen Monroe got constructed, but it's still sitting there. And if the desire of the board was to move forward with it, that would be used for this. In 170K before the 65 showed up, I'm happy to accommodate the additional $7,000 in our paving operating budget. That's not a concern.
Yeah, okay, no, that's super helpful in me understanding. So if we wanted to do that South Street from West Main to Gale Street, we would need to tap into roughly 170, 180, that range to pay for that. I understand your other notes here about contingency and all that. I'm just saying from my perspective, that one is not a priority. I know you're saying it's designed, it's completed, it's ready, shovel ready, just needs to be funded for the construction. And, that's great. And I hate to let a good design get rusty, but that one of the available options here, I put that one pretty low on my priority list.
I 100% agree with you.
The bang for your buck isn't quite as attractive as the other options. I'm out of the five, I'm with Mike that I kind of like those first three, which add up to, my rough math is like 180. Including, it looks like some of that you could argue fits within your 65 as downtown adjacent, right? Maybe at least there's an argument for, I don't know. I'm thinking Pine Haven, that goes down to a part of our town that could be considered part of downtown. I don't know. You seem to say that was a flexible definition. Maybe I misunderstood, but
No, it is.
okay.
And if you put in Pleasant and Church, you're
Yeah.
still below that 235 threshold. And
Yeah.
if you think of continuity, you walk out of Melican, you head over to Pleasant Street, you go down Pleasant Street through a horrible sidewalk, cross over to go towards Z, and it's just a gap. I mean, I'm all about continuity. I don't really care for, spot construction. I'd rather, get somebody from Melican safely to Z's playground and downtown. So that's an easy add-on, still within the budget.
Yeah, and the Pine Haven, I know that the purpose is to do a design and easement estimates and all that sort of stuff. I'm guessing it's got to be aligned on the my hands maybe show backwards here on the Zoom, but east side where there's fewer cut-ins would seem to be the more logical sidewalk. I don't know.
Yeah, it would be on the east side. The utility poles are all on the west side.
Okay.
When you drive down Pine Haven and you look to the east, you'll see slopes.
Yeah.
The lawns go up.
Yeah. I've driven up there. I have friends who live up there, and yeah, it's a rough situation. But I think given the cut-ins that you have on the west and the poles, well, obviously that's what the study would tell us is how to do it. But
correct.
Okay. The thing I'm kind of, the tough one is, do you do say 1, 2, 3 or 1, 2, 3 and 4 on your list here, or do you throw a bunch of money at the Assabet Hill project and reduce the amount that we're going to need on that? And I know, apologize to any vegans out there, and I don't eat elephants, but as the saying goes, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. And we have a lot of elephant numbers out there, really big numbers, when we're talking about override and 1.3 million here, and Assabet's 1.8. It's tough to get excited about knocking down 1.8 to 1.7, but 1.7 is better than 1.8 by $100,000. And if we could save 100,000 here, it's 100,000, which is my leaning toward, maybe I would be in favor of saying, let's allocate about 100K to lowering our need for Assabet Hill, and then use the other 135, if my math is roughly right, to do, I know you can't at that point, then you can't do all four of these. You've got to really pick your favorite two. I'm trying to think out loud here, because I'd hate to say there's an opportunity to reduce what we're going to need at town meeting when we're looking at our operating budget and our capital expenditures, and possibly needing a loan that's either a debt exclusion or not. It's hard to get excited about lowering big numbers one bite at a time, but that's the only way to do it, I think. So I don't know. I'm really interested to hear from our other members, because I know sidewalks are a big priority for you all, and I'm also happy to support the sidewalks. So that's where I'm kind of thinking right now. Other than my last final point, sorry for being long-winded here, really echo I think some sentiments John was saying. I just want to be sure, you said we're at 60% design on South Street. I don't know if that's, sorry, not South, I'm sorry, Maple Street. I don't know if that's enough design so that from your perspective, if the school committee wanted to apply for the grant in fall, they're ready, or if we still need to do more design to have it ready if they decide to do the grant in fall. I want to get to whenever the deadline is to file that grant application, and assuming the school committee wants to do it, which I hope they do, there's no barriers in the way, if that makes sense. I want to make sure that we've done everything we can. I know it's a school committee decision, and they sounds like they own whether to apply for it. I just don't want to get into the position of they need to apply for the grant, but there's this one more thing we didn't do or didn't fund with the prerequisite of the design. So help me be comfortable that that won't be a problem, and then I'll stop talking about it, I guess.
All right, two quick clarifications, if I can. So Maple Street will be in a state of design eligible for safe routes to schools.
Right.
It will be. I'm
Right.
confident in that. On the other side, be aware when we do a drainage project or a sewer project or a water main or what have you, we go in, we dig a lot of trenches, we dig a lot of holes, pipes go in the ground, you put a temporary patch over it, and then you go away for a year. One winter cycle. So you get a freeze and thaw. And then you come back the following calendar year or whatever when the winter's over, and then you pave it. So in doing that, you've allowed essentially 2 cycles of town meeting to go through. And as I indicated before, we have $300,000 in the operating budget proposed for paving, which we've had for many, many years. And we also have $500,000 of Chapter 90 money that comes in every year. So there is an opportunity to, eat the elephant at 2 meals.
I'd like to do that. I mean, eating it all in one bite's hard. That's what I'm getting at. You know what I'm saying?
That was
We'll come up with a better metaphor. Thanks, Scott.
Yep.
Appreciate it.
Okay, we have a hand up. Lisa Mazzelli.
Well,
Lisa?
yes, I was going to wait till the rest of you and Laura had talked about it. Do you want me to do that?
I didn't see any other hands from the board. Laura, you okay? Okay.
Yes? All right. Lisa Maselli, 13 Maple Street. I'm concerned about hearing this new thing that the superintendent of schools has to okay Maple Street. That concerns me because we talk about other schools and their sidewalks, and I don't hear that. This sidewalk was brought before the town meeting, I think it was in 1990s, and $2 million was set aside for it. They voted for it, they got the money, and then nothing was done because supposedly one neighbor didn't want it. And then it just languished. I don't know where the money went. I've done some research. I've been trying to find out where that $2 million went. And here we are in 2026. Nothing's been done to complete the sidewalk. And the sidewalk starts at Ridge Road and goes to the high school or Bartlett Street. So it's on that side, connecting the 2 schools. It was on the number 8 priority on the Complete Streets grant. But we're not using Complete Streets money on that. We can't use any more Complete Streets money for 4 years because we've already taken the 400,000 or 499. And I'm concerned that this is going to be another thing that'll take another 5-10 years to be done. As much as Peasley School is coming up, the sidewalk from Main Street to Ridge has already been done. So there wouldn't be any work, to my knowledge, unless you were going to reconfigure that sidewalk again for Peasley to really get involved. Because after it passes to Ridge Road, it's already a little bit past the school's property. So I know that there was a petition, I think. There was several names on that petition to get Maple Street done. And I agree with I think Jacob when he talked about South Street, where there's already a sidewalk there, and as nasty as it might look, I just really think we need to start putting our energies into completing something. And as you go and you do all of these studies or whatever we're doing in terms of putting information down so we know what we need, if they go for a couple of years, then the prices that were quoted aren't even close. And we've had that happen with the Complete Streets grants because the 25 projects that were originally on the Complete Streets grants had the numbers of cost on them, and I think I saw that. I can get a hold of that one, but that had costs on it, which of course are not what we're paying for now. They're a lot higher than what was estimated back then. So I just want to make sure that it's not just we're talking about Maple Street, and yes, we're looking into it, but that should be the next sidewalk that's done. And even in looking at the street, and if there's sidewalks and fire hydrants on one side and a decent right on the other side, then there's no reason the street couldn't actually be changed its configuration a little bit to add some land on one side and take it away from the other to be able to complete that. But I'm just talking about my concern on one now, and I hope that it makes an impression. But thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you, Lisa.
No.
Okay, so
Madam Chair,
yes.
quickly in response to the citizen. So anytime our public works engineers put together construction cost estimates, it is always to midpoint of construction. It's not today's dollars. If it's a 3-year project, it's to midpoint year 2. You'll see the same thing on the Peasley School. They'll have midpoint construction estimates. We don't estimate it based on today. That's very short-sighted. The second thing regarding shifting the roadway, that is extremely complicated. Roadways have crowns. Crown is the high point at this double yellow center line. You can't just shift the double yellow center line over and not expect to have to regrade the entire roadway. So the design currently on Maple Street is if you're coming from Ridge on the right-hand side, going all the way to Bartlett Street. It's driven primarily by utility poles, but also by right-of-way. We've managed to avoid any land takings or permanent easements to allow the sidewalk to be constructed on that side of the road.
Okay. I at this point though, Lisa, do you still have your hand up?
I just put it up just to get back. If it's going to be on the right side of the north side of the road, then you're going to need a crosswalk to cross over from where the existing sidewalk is on Maple now.
Correct.
Okay. All right. So let's get back to what we have to decide tonight. So I think I'm a little confused. You're saying we have $170,000. Does that include the $65,000 earmark or not?
It does not.
It does not. So we technically have $235,000, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So I was hearing from the board that everybody liked the Howard Street, the first 3, Davis Street, Howard Street, Pine Haven. That comes to $180,600. We could, okay, everybody start pulling out your calculators. If we added Pleasant Street and Church Street, that would come to what?
215.
215?
And I do recommend that.
You do recommend that?
Yes, if we're going to be doing Howard Street, it provides continuity between Melican Middle School and Z Schools, Fields, and downtown.
Okay. So, all right. So that's something I want you all to think about for the next minute or two. But the new assessment that you mentioned is there for $28,500. What is that something CMRPC could do for us?
No,
No.
this is a detailed survey around town by a pavement engineer evaluating curb reveal, curb type, sidewalk material, sidewalk width, wheelchair ramp compliance, and developing a capital improvement plan based on different funding strategies. You see, we have a sidewalk improvement plan that was put up on the DPW's website, 23, I think, maybe 22.
Yeah, that's what you say in the memo.
Yeah, yep, exactly. And that would be updated by the same consultant with a more extensive evaluation.
Okay.
That was done. That was like literally a windshield survey. They drove around and started noting segments just so we had an inventory of what we have and we know where it is and generally what condition it's in.
So that's something we have to think about. Laura, are you?
Yeah, I just have a question. I think I lost track of our conversation. We're talking about the design of sidewalks, and then I heard the Assabet drainage challenge come up. If we vote on all this, is that not going to happen, or is that still going to happen? I'm just not sure how that. What the I'm confused. Are you able to clarify that? Like, if we do this, can we not do that, or is that still going to happen?
No, the
Yeah.
elephant is still there, I think.
Can I answer, Madam Chair?
Yes,
Yeah,
with
so
confirmation from Scott, right?
sure. So Laura, just so you know where I'm coming from, my understanding is we've got to do Assabet Hill. It's 1.8 million. The reason I brought it up, which maybe I
Okay.
missed reading John's comments as well, maybe he was thinking about this too, was is the 230 is some at least some portion
Got
of
it.
the 235 we're talking about money that if we wanted to could be used to make the elephant smaller. And I think the answer is yes. Then the question is do we want to? And if so, how much? Scott, correct me if I'm wrong about any of that.
That's 100% accurate, Mr. Jones. And there are a variety of funding mechanisms that could address Assabet Hill. Again, we have $500,000 a year from Chapter 90. So it takes 2 years to do the project. That chips $1 million off. We have 180 here. Now you're down to 600,000 needed up the top of the hill. We have $300,000 in the operating budget for paving. After 2 fiscal years, that's 600. That's it.
Okay.
Albeit that's every single dollar of paving money going to one neighborhood, but it's all eligible, and it's a funding option that the select board can deliberate on if they choose.
Can I continue my comment now?
Sorry.
No. I didn't mean that, Scott. No, I really appreciated your clarifying. I just wanted to thinking about the fact that we could probably put some money towards that with all of the other earmarks that you've got lined up. I appreciate that. And I almost think, as much as I'd love to support all of the sidewalks, if we can chip a little bit more away, the Assabet situation is a safety concern, as well as it's really hard to pick and choose. But when we have limited money, I think I would be open to the top 3 priorities for sidewalks if it means that we can designate some of that additional money towards the Assabet challenge. But I mean, ultimately, they're both equally important, and it's really hard to make that decision. So thank you for clarifying that, Jacob. Thank you for bringing it up, and I hope my comment makes sense.
Okay, anyone else from the board? Mike?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, just to say about the 28.5 for the additional capital improvement plan and assessing the 35 miles of town sidewalk. Scott, when was the original car window assessment done?
I believe it was 23.
That was okay. I see.
Yeah, 2023. Yes.
That was in 2023. Okay.
Yep.
The way I kind of think about it, although I guess it might be nice to have a more in-depth survey, I kind of think back to a movie line from The Money Pit where it's like, well, we looked at them 3 years ago. They haven't gotten better with age, right? Like, so we kind of know where those, maybe it wasn't as in depth, but we kind of know where that 34 miles stands. So I would rather not expend that 28.5 towards something like that if we could use that money towards either to get the designs ready for additional sidewalks so that, as Scott mentioned earlier, when money comes up, we can try and find ways to pull the trigger on things, or utilizing some towards Assabet Hill if something like that would be would make a dent. I'm not I'm assuming some level of rolling this money over doesn't make sense. That we're looking to utilize the full amount. I would I'd be more in favor of trying to find ways to put in new sidewalk where it doesn't exist and having those designs ready so that when Complete Streets comes up or additional earmarks come up and we have monies and we can, things that need those designs completed, we have the opportunity to get those designs done and have them ready so that, we can make those streets safer along with, other priorities in town. So.
So what are you saying, Mike? Do you want to put some money towards Assabet or?
I mean, the way I would look at it is I would rather use this money towards getting the designs for additional sidewalk. So that way, you know, I get the idea of, right, chipping away at the elephant and taking small bites of it. But it seems like unless we're just going to sort of pour the whole pot on top of it, you know, if we're starting to use some of it for sidewalk design and some of it not, it kind of, to me, the numbers kind of get smaller and don't seem to make a whole lot of sense. Where there's other funding mechanisms that Scott laid out. Granted, those are utilizing full amounts and full pots of money poured onto it. So I would be more inclined to say, let's utilize the money towards sidewalk design so that we have them completed, we have them ready, so that if we get this up, we have opportunities to get grants and get money that require design completed. We have them ready to go. Let's take this as an opportunity to move the ball down the field, to get designs done like we were able to do with Maple, right? We were able to at least get the design to a place where, you know, there's avenues where we may have a chance of success of getting that completed with a safe walk to schools grant and things like that. Right? We're if we didn't have that the ARPA money available to do that design, right, we wouldn't be anywhere near it, right? We wouldn't no bother applying to a safe walk to schools grant because we wouldn't have that done. So we have these funds available. I would like to try and get some sidewalk design completed so that again we can get the construction done when and if those opportunities arise.
Scott?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ms. Jones, this will be quick. I neglected to tell you earlier that the $65,000 earmark has a June 30th, 2026 sunset. So if we don't spend it by the end of this fiscal year, it disappears. The $170,000 out of capital has no sunset. It can be rolled over fiscal year after fiscal year. So just to alert the board of that.
Thank you. Okay, so my inclination is to go with how Mike is thinking about this. And while I appreciate where Laura and Jacob are coming from, that we chip away at Assabet Hill, if we do the design for, let's just say, the first 4 projects, that might bring in more money. So it's a little bit of, you know, chipping away at the elephant or adding to the elephant. Not adding to the elephant, also chipping away at the elephant. Okay, Jacob.
Can I, hopefully this is helpful because I also agree with Mr. Tejan on, I see the value of the 28.5 to update our plan, but I don't see that that is something we need to do this year. So I would like to, my opinion is kick the 28.5 for updating the plan. We definitely know things that need work now. We don't need to be told that they need work now. We can maybe consider doing that next cycle. But what I would propose, if the board wants to entertain a concrete proposal here, is that we give the direction. Obviously, this would be subject to, as our DPW director said, culverts or other collapses or emergencies. Then that would change all this. So, granted that, absent anything like that, I would propose that the direction we give be to put a priority on the first 4 of the bullet points, which came to roughly 215, I think the chair calculated. And then if any money is left over, with a priority towards spending that 65 first, obviously, you know, for the reason he just mentioned, get that one taken care of on any of these that could fit into that category, which I think he said some could. And then if there's any money left over, even if it's only 20,000, take a little nibble at the elephant of Assabet Hill. That would be my suggestion.
Is that a motion by any chance?
I move that.
I second that.
Any further discussion? Okay, this is a roll call vote. John?
Aye.
Laura?
Aye.
Jacob?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
And I vote aye. Scott, is that motion clear enough?
That is clear. and we will move forward tomorrow with the consultant and get things rolling. And I guarantee you that 65,000 will be the first dollars spent. We will
Thanks.
not give anything back to the state.
We don't want, you're absolutely right. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you,
All right.
Scott.
Thank you all.
Bye.
Good time.
Scott.
All right. Okay, bear with me. Here we have. All right, let me get rid of that. And next on the agenda is review and acknowledgement of receipt of open meeting law complaint by Mr. Patrick Higgins against the Northborough Select Board, dated and received by the town of Northborough on January 12th, and consider referral to town council for response. Diane, are you going to help us with this one? This is about the licenses not being.
Yep, I'll speak to it. Okay, so as you know, we received the alleged complaint regarding the December 15th meeting agenda. And there were two alleged violations. One was that it was not properly posted with the time and date. That is not true. In fact, it was. Both Damien, our town clerk, and our town council counseled that yes, it was posted properly. And the second was that the agenda did not list the licensees on the agenda that were going to be renewed that evening. That was in violation. We were advised by town council to re-vote that tonight. They were included on tonight's agenda, and to just re-vote so that that's dealing with that violation. And otherwise, yeah, I think the motion in front of you will acknowledge it and allow town council to respond.
Is there any question or comments from the board? Okay, then, John, would you like to make a motion to give this over to town council?
I will make the motion. I move that the board acknowledge receipt of the open meeting law complaint filed by Mr. Patrick Higgins, dated and received by the town on January 12th, 2026, and authorize town council to prepare and submit a response on behalf of the board.
Second.
Motion made by John, seconded by Laura. Any further discussion? Roll call vote. Mike,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Jacob,
Aye.
Laura,
Aye.
and I vote aye. So we still have to vote on the license, on the license renewals.
Yes, that is
Right.
correct.
Madam
Okay.
Chair, do you mind if I speak for a moment?
Oh,
Oh,
yes.
that'd be great. Hi,
Yeah,
Angie.
hi. I just want to let you know. So council also mentioned if there was anything that we had discussed at the December 15th meeting about the renewals, just to kind of bring it up again. So we had just discussed if fire or if building department had any issues or lingering open items. I did talk to Bob. There's still one restaurant that had a few more items that had to be taken care of. They were just waiting for an electrician to replace some light fixtures, and that was supposed to have been done by the end of last week. So I can follow up with Bob, but everything else that he had mentioned before, all the life safety issues that were still open had been resolved. And we should be good. So just wanted to mention that.
That's great. Thank you, Angie. But, okay, so when we vote or re-vote, do we include that little caveat that pending approval by fire and building inspector?
If fire's all set, I know that, the police are all set, and then it's just that one. That can't hurt. Yeah, that can't hurt to add.
Pending
you know,
approval by the building inspector?
Yeah, I would add the building inspector, yeah.
Okay. Okay, Mike, you're assigned to do that motion. Can you add pending approval by the building inspector?
Sure. I mean, should I just say pending applicable approvals, or does it have to be specific to that one?
I think it's only the building inspector, but maybe a general is better. What do you think, Di and Angie?
Yeah, I would suggest adding subject to a satisfactory approval by the building department.
Okay, but wait a second. Is there any discussion on this? Any questions, any discussion? Okay. All right, then, Mike, if you would please make the motion.
All right, let me take a shot at it. I move that the board revote to approve the 2026 annual license renewals for all licensees as initially approved on December 15th, 2025, as listed on pages 3 through 5 of posted meeting agenda, subject to satisfactory approval by the building inspector.
Okay, I'm getting a nod from Diane. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, I'm gonna go with Laura. Motion made by Mike, seconded by Laura. Any further discussion? Roll call vote. Laura,
Aye.
Jacob,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
and I vote aye. Okay, hopefully this is all okay now. All right, next on the agenda is what? Select board goals. This is just simply to set a date for a remote meeting to review and discuss the draft summary of select board goals. So Di, is Stephanie's request here that we have like a dedicated meeting to discuss the goals?
I think so. I think that's what she was originally, because we've been trying to do it on so many past
Yeah,
meetings and we just don't
right.
seem to get to it. So I
Right,
think
right.
that was her preference. Was that true with you, Angie?
Yeah, that's what Steph had mentioned. She thought a dedicated meeting and she thought Zoom would, fully remote would make the most sense to start addressing the goals.
Okay, so do Monday nights work for everyone?
In general, yes.
In general, yes. Okay. Would like next Monday night be too early or?
That's the only Monday I cannot do. I'm sorry.
All right, wait a second.
I'll pull up my calendar.
Everybody pull up your calendar. So we have a meeting on the 9th and the 23rd, right?
Mhm.
That's correct. Yep.
What about Monday, February 2nd? Anybody available?
That's next Monday.
That's what you
Yeah.
just.
Oh,
I'm not.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
okay, all right. Okay, thank you very much. Correction.
Sorry.
Could we meet on President's Day? Probably not.
No, we would not be able to.
All right then.
Maybe that a Tuesday?
Tuesdays are great for you because,
Yeah, we're the late Tuesday.
okay, all right, everybody look at Tuesday, February 3rd.
I will not be available that week. I'm sorry.
The whole week you're gone.
Yep.
All right, what about the 17th?
That's school vacation week. I'm not gonna prioritize this.
Okay, the 10th, do you want to do 2 meetings in a row?
Hold on one second. Would this be a 6:30 meeting?
Yeah,
Oh, wait a minute. What's the 7th? What's
could
the
be
date?
earlier. Can everyone meet at 6?
What was the date?
February 10th.
I believe there's an appropriations committee meeting that night, so Steph will
Mm.
probably be at that.
Yeah, and
Right.
any Tuesday, I'm tied up till 7 o'clock.
Okay.
So if it's a Tuesday, we'd probably have to start 7:15.
Okay, how about February 24th?
Sorry.
Is that a Tuesday? Because I think Angie brought up a good point. I think appropriations tends to meet on Tuesdays coming up.
And I'm not available on the 24th.
Should we look at a Wednesday or a Thursday?
Mm-hmm.
And the reasoning for this is we think it's too long to fit into another meeting.
Yeah, unless, Angie, how are the agendas looking for like February 9, the February meetings? Are they packed?
I mean, right now, February 23rd is light, so we could try to do it on the 23rd.
Okay.
What's the 9th look like right now? Just out of curiosity.
The 9th?
They get busier as they get closer.
To budget.
Look at that now. Actually, that doesn't look too bad right now either.
It looked light from what I saw. I just wasn't sure if it's up to date.
Yeah.
Okay, should we try for the 9th?
How
Yeah.
much time do we protect so we can run a good meeting? Like if we put normal course of business plus this, like how much time should we protect for this?
Hmm.
Good. And this is basically taking what we all put down as our separate sort of priorities and goals and boiling it down to a set that we agree on as a group that Steph can use as direction and for essentially her goals, right? That's just to remind myself kind of what this exactly is. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes, I
Okay.
believe so.
If possible, for doing it on that Monday, if we could really prioritize keeping that agenda light, whichever one it is, just so I just don't want to end up in a situation where we don't have enough time to cover it. And I think that this is, I'm looking forward to doing it and it's important. So I don't want to feel like it's rushed.
Yeah, I'd actually put us to have a hard stop on normal course and then say at X amount of time we will do this and whatever we'll have to we have to run better meetings in general. I think we all feel that. But get to a point where we say, okay, let's make sure we get everything needs to be decided on the 9th and then pop the rest of the 23rd.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which gets back to my original question is how much time should we allocate for this?
So for the meeting itself, you mean?
For the meeting on goals and objectives, the time we're trying to protect.
Well,
For that
I
portion.
don't think the discussion should be much more than an hour. I mean, especially if we're organized before the meeting and we consolidate our list.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I agree with that as well.
Any chance of starting the meeting at 6? Like that's a problem for you, right?
Yeah, 6:30
Is even
it's a
pushing
lot
it.
better for me. It's still kind of rushing, right?
Yeah.
So I know that I appreciate the deference if we could keep it to 6:30.
Okay.
But I like John's idea of trying to come up maybe for a topic because it's we're kind of fitting it into a meeting of trying to assign or have an idea of how much time we want to spend on it. And I think we've already had some conversation on it. I know we've had the material for a while, so hopefully we could have an efficient discussion on it and take less than an hour.
Yeah, I mean, we've had some fatiguing meetings, right? Where we've had
Sure.
long public meetings, gone executive. So I feel like if we can have a meeting that looks like it is more what our meeting should end at, we should be in good shape.
Yeah. So we're agreeing on February 9th.
Yes.
That sounds good.
Hopefully to keep it to an hour. Okay.
And then, Julian, the point I was trying to make earlier, let's try to be pragmatic about how much time we should allocate for the rest. I don't want to force how much time we spend on what comes before us, but we should try to have a target of when we should get everything done based on what the agenda looks like.
Right. And I think the point also, if there's anything that comes up that could possibly, it depends on how the agenda is shaping up for the 9th and the 23rd. And actually, I wanted to speak about that. So Angie and Diane, when the draft agenda comes out, say on a Wednesday, can you send it to the whole board so that if anybody wants something added or has questions about it, because things have come up where I've missed things
Oh,
and
yeah. I thought we were doing that. Were we not?
I think it's just coming to me.
It's just,
Okay.
yeah, right now it's just going to Julianne, but yeah, I can definitely do that.
I would assume that everyone would appreciate getting the draft agenda. So we can all help each other in saying, hey, looks like it's too long or whatever.
I think that's a great idea.
I see many thumbs up. Very good, people. Okay. All right. So do we really have to vote on this? Because we're not going to do remote. We're going to try to do in person.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Okay. All right. Okay. Are we ready to move on? Any other comments about the goal setting? All right. Next, fire station building project, site conditions, continued discussion. Is there any update on that or?
I haven't had a FSBC meeting since our last one, so I don't want to belabor anything that we're already talking about that we're probably going to continue to talk about next meeting.
Okay. All right, then let's move on to reports. John, do you have a report?
No, I thought good discussion at the financial planning committee meeting. I'm looking forward to that committee coming for the select board. They've got some hard things they're figuring out. I think they're asking really good questions on the cost of particularly the Z School roof, but in general. So I'm looking forward to that. I don't think I have any other reports. I had a process question that slipped my mind that I'll bring up when I remember it.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Mike.
Yeah, so just a couple quick ones. There's a Peasley Building Committee meeting tomorrow night. So I will be there for that. Bob Light at the beginning of the meeting kind of stole my thunder on the Knox 250 thing. So I'll be presenting and accepting on behalf of Northborough. So that should be cool. Hopefully there's not too many people there and I get too nervous, but we'll see how it goes. I'm just glad I'm doing the indoor part and not have to walk around the freezing cold streets of Worcester on the 31st. But also, I think at this point, maybe a couple weeks ago, I had forgot to mention in a previous report, I was able to attend a Cub Scout meeting and talk to them a little bit about local elections and being on the select board. That was pretty cool. Actually got them to sit there quietly for a few minutes, which was probably the most impressive part. So that was great. And actually, due to a question from one of the young guys there about trying to fish off the aqueduct, reached out to the conservation agent and figured out some stuff that I hadn't known before. Was able to get him an answer to a question he had. So that was fun. But that's all I have for reports.
Thank you. Jacob.
Thanks. As I mentioned before, the appropriations meeting that I listened to, so I won't rehash that. Actually, I see Mr. Rogers, the chair, is here. Welcome him to remind us of anything that I've forgotten that they want from the select board, because they took the information from the police department and then they had a pretty lengthy discussion, big picture wise, of how are we going to make this work this year and in the coming years. So I won't go into great detail rehashing that, but if I do invite Mr. Rogers when we get back to public comment here, if he has anything to chime in for us, love to listen. The Council on Aging, I kind of already referred to that. Just as a reminder, the Friends of the Senior Center, which is a separate nonprofit organization, their annual fundraising campaign is open. Everyone is always invited to contribute charitably to that organization, which supports a lot of the programming that happens at the Senior Center. Open space we talked about already, and that's all I can think of at the moment. Thanks. Planning board, just kind of so we're not surprised. They had a pretty robust. There's a lot of bylaws that they're talking about wanting to bring to town meeting, and I have given them my 2 cents of trying to consolidate as many of them that make sense to consolidate, largely for efficiency purposes. But they had a pretty robust discussion at their last meeting, and they may be trending toward segregating a lot of them because of some possible anticipated opposition to some of them, and you don't want to lump one that may get opposition to one that may not get opposition. So just as a heads up, they're talking about a lot of bylaws that are going to probably come before us when we're talking about putting the warrant together. That's all I can think of. Thanks.
Great, thank you. Laura?
Just a reminder, hopefully you guys got a note about Kindness Week coming up in February. Community Affairs is looking for us to participate in some events. And that concludes my report.
Thank you very much. I didn't miss anyone, right? Okay. I have no report. John, your hand is up?
I remembered my process question. So what's our plan to start the search for a new fire chief?
Oh, good question.
Yes, that is a good question.
Well, I had that question too. I know Steph is out of town for the moment, but
Mhm.
we voted to continue with the process. Sorry. Same question as John.
Oh, okay. So our Labor Council is in the process of reviewing the job description. We're hoping to get that this week, and I have it on my list of things to talk with Steph about probably, I know Friday we have an executive session. And so we can try to get an update before then about when to start the selection process. I know I think at the last meeting, did she say that they've selected a neighboring chief to serve? Yeah, she's probably best to give you a better update on that, but we'll get that to you soon.
We have executive session Friday.
We do.
What time?
12 noon,
12:45.
12:45. Okay.
Yeah.
Can you make it, John? An email went out.
I'm sure it did.
It'll be
Yeah,
remote.
it's atypical that we have them on
Right.
during work hours, and I have a job. I could do one.
Okay. All right. Well, anytime you can join in. And don't forget, my request that if
12:45 a specific reason? I guess how much time I can check my email. How much time do you have allotted for it?
I think we were saying maybe an hour. We have a number of topics we need to discuss.
I have it on for noon. Is it going to move just so that I can make sure my calendar is blocked? And an hour, I can swing an hour for lunch. I just want to make sure I've got it blocked off appropriately.
I think we had suggested noon and then it was changed to 12:45, right, Mike?
Yeah, I asked for 12:45 to if that would work for everybody.
Can we do 1 to 2?
Sure.
that
Good.
works
Is that
for
okay for
That
you,
works.
Mike?
Yeah, I can do 1 to 2. It was just basically trying to be after a certain time, so that works.
Okay, I can do it for a month or two. I'm going to move it in my calendar, and
Okay.
I'll be limited to an hour just because of the timing, but I can swing that otherwise.
Same constraint.
And that agenda will have to come out by Wednesday.
Tomorrow. Right, Wednesday.
Okay, so if anybody has something they want on it, let Angie and me know.
For
Okay,
executive session topics.
right. Okay. Anything else? Okay, let's move on to public comment. Does anyone see anyone in the audience with their hand raised? Help me out.
I
Okay.
do not.
Future agenda items. Anybody have any future agenda items that they'd like to be brought up? During the meeting, I actually heard that we should, based on Mr. Scanlon's recommendation, vote on some kind of direction to look at a plan to dip into stabilization fund. So that might actually be tacked onto our goal setting. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think I was suggesting that, and I'm not trying to predict the outcome of that discussion, but I think it's something that we need to discuss
Yeah.
because what I heard was if we wanted to do that, we should do it with a plan. So it may be a vote as simple as to ask the finance director to propose what a plan might look like, something like that. But I would like to have that discussion.
Okay. Yeah, Mike.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say when Jacob brought it up earlier in the meeting, I was thinking the exact same thing of having a discussion about utilizing reserves. What would we utilize them on? I don't know if that means we wait for appropriations and financial planning to kind of say what they think boils up to that level and then kind of take it from there, or do we kind of already have that conversation? I know in our previous meeting talking about the special education costs from the schools, that I think was part of our conversation was, hey, Steph, hey, Greg, come up with something that utilizes whatever available funds to address this issue. So we kind of mentioned it there. But that's kind of where my head was going when Jacob brought it up, was sort of that kind of review and discussion, because to go ahead and do that, yeah, we should probably have a conversation. And do that, I mean, utilizing reserves for one-time expenditures.
Okay, so we will add that on to, I think it's most appropriate to do it in goal setting. Everyone agree? Okay, I'm gonna pause here for a second. Mr. Ruiz, you have your hand up? Did you have a public comment?
I think he may need to unmute or might have to get permission to unmute.
Mr.
He should be
Hello, can you hear
able to
me?
unmute.
Hello? Hi.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes,
I'm sorry, I'm a little slow with the Zoom on my phone. So I did have a public comment, if
please
possible.
just tell us your address.
268 Whitney Street.
Great, thank you.
Oh, so I just wanted to comment, and this is just a feeling in general for the board. I watched your last meeting, and I was in reference to the fire department and the presentation that went on, and I was a little disheartened by what had happened and the way that the board voted towards that presentation. I watched that presentation. I'm not somebody that's in favor of the fire department with that new fire station. I didn't vote for it. But that being said, I felt that to one of the members' points, which we're going to try to attract personnel to the town, and we want the best and the brightest. And I didn't feel that we did justice, or you, not we, but the town did justice to those people that were sitting there, who are some of our town leaders. You guys are our town leaders, but we employ these people, and getting a presentation to somebody 3 hours before a meeting, I didn't feel was fair. I like to think of the golden rule: treat those how you'd like to be treated. I think it's important that we, especially in this climate that we're living in right now, that we keep that in mind, that we treat people fairly. Holding that off for a couple weeks, I don't think was that big of an ask. I think it did more damage to push that forward. I appreciated the one select board member that was for pushing off for a couple weeks. I thought that was the fair approach. And I would just like to remind you, that you are looked to as town leaders, and just to keep that in mind when you're dealing with our with people that we employ. As a resident, as a taxpayer, I would hope that you would keep that in mind when dealing with employees. And that was really my comment. That's all I just wanted to say.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, does anyone see any other hands up? Okay, I do have a future agenda item, and this aqueduct trail is brought up all the time. And did Lori say that it's been 1.5 years since there's any conversation with MWRA? I believe that's what she said. Does anybody agree with me that maybe we could get an update on that? Because it's kind of high on everybody's list.
I'd love one. I mean, that was
Yeah.
part of the confusion with the B-Wall trails, just trying to understand like the different priorities we have for things that we're trying to do to make Northborough more walkable and work within our neighboring communities. So that would be welcome.
I agree.
Okay.
Yeah, and this actually is funny because it kind of came up when I was referencing my conversation with the Cub Scouts. One of the questions was, one of the young men wanted to like fish off the aqueduct, and the conservation agent was very helpful in describing why he can't do that, why they say he can't do that, and that there's a plan to try and fix that, but it takes very long. I could forward that, through the chair. And Julianne, if you think it's worth sending out to everybody. I mean, it's not specific to like the trail, but I think it's sort of indicative, I think, to the larger issues of it's just taking a lot of time to get stuff completed. Like, they didn't have adequate railings and protection up there, so they don't want anybody up there. So even getting to a level of having that, I guess, safety precautions is maybe part of the reason why they don't want the trails up there. But I could forward that email through you, Julianne,
Yeah.
if you wanted to forward it to everybody, or just see if it's useful.
Give it to everybody.
Sure.
That'd be great. Yeah, because It would be something so fantastic. And the other thing is, you know, and this comes up so often that we are asked to write a letter of support for grants that, you know, the grant application has to be, is due, you know, in the case that we discussed today, next week. And oftentimes, especially with this board, like what John brought up tonight is, you know, asking CPC for money to, you know, to put in our share of the grant. So Diane and Angie, if there's any way, as soon as, you know, anybody's applying for a grant, to kind of give us the heads up so that, you know, we don't get this information at the last minute and then make it difficult for staff who's applying. I think that might help.
Sure.
Anybody else think otherwise, or?
I agree. I think there's been things that come to us very late when we don't have time to react or strategize and inform the plan and how we'd like to approach it. I can think of many examples. I think in general, it's a thing we need to somehow, like right now, we're talking about light schedules for agendas. What are the things that we should be thinking about that coming for us that have lead time for them that we're aware of, and not just coming at the 11th hour? And another example was, you know, back in the spring, the $5,000 for the Route 9 grant that we put in for with our neighboring communities, Southborough and Westborough. And it was just, there was no lead time. And it's just, how do we get better at trying to get that part down? Because I think we can probably make better, more informed decisions if we can get that behavior down.
Everybody okay with that then? All right.
Yeah, I would agree.
Okay.
And I do, Julian, I do have a couple of, now we're talking agenda items. Can we get an update from Amazon on the signs in 2 weeks? Can they come before us to give an update on the signs that it's been a couple months now. So I think the resources to get that done.
Great. Good idea. And anybody else, if you think of something, just let, you know, Angie know, and then we'll all get the draft agenda. All right. Anything else? Okay. Any other business to come before the board? Okay. Do you want to adjourn this meeting at 9:17?
How is this possible?
Do with your evening.
2026 is it's a new world.
Cooking with gas during this meeting.
Stop, Jinx. Stop extending this unnecessarily. I move to adjourn.
Second.
This has to be a roll call vote. John.
Aye.
Mike.
Aye.
Laura.
Aye.
Jacob.
Aye.
And I vote aye. Thank you all very much. Meeting is adjourned at 9:18, I guess.
Thanks, everybody.
All right, take care, guys.
Thank you.
Bye. Have a great week.
You too.